Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
I love the efficiency of bourbon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Oh, yeah! Dan Aguirre, that lady sitting on your lap is really, really hot. Holy cow!
I have a confession for if you want to hear something filthy.
Yes, of course. Always love to start the show with filthy stuff.
The only person in the world that knows about this is her.
Okay.
And it made me think of it with your anecdote regarding Greg Latta, the late Greg Latta. Yesterday, I was like, well, I got to do my radio show. I was like, let me run upstairs and take a piss first. I start to do my thing and pull out the, the medium hog, and I start to pee. I start to piss, and I fucking sneezed while I was pissing, and I shit on myself. I'm not kidding. I wiped my ass and I went home. I didn't do my radio show last night. Thankfully, my boss did not ask me because I was like, what do I tell him? If I tell him I shit my pants, he's going to think I'm lying. But I went home, washed my ass in the shower, and then went to 911. I was like, I got just enough time to go home and wash my ass and then go to my job. It was terrible. I'd like to think that that's the first time I've done that since like 1981, but who knows?
Was it wet?
It was bad, man. I didn't even think I had to shit though. That's the thing. Like I was just pissing. I sneezed, and then it was like the size of a dime, but it was shit. And it was in my drawers and went through to my shorts.
Oh, wow. Is that the first time that's ever happened to you?
As far as I know. I mean, was there some time in like 1988 or something where I was shitting and vomiting at the same time? I'm sure. But from my recollection as an adult, I think that's the first time I've shit on myself. It made me think of, did you see the Cheech Marin, Cheech and Chong, Things Are Tough All Over?
Yes.
He's like trying to get into the stall and someone scares him and he shits on himself. I felt like that when I was driving home. I was like, God, I feel like when Cheech shit on himself. I was like, if I have to tell my boss that's the reason I didn't do my work, I was like, please, if there's a God, please don't ask him. Just don't let him notice. Don't let him know, because I can't, like, there's nothing else for me to say. I can't be like, well, I just I got sleepy and I left early for a reason. I shit on myself, but I don't want to tell him that.
Cliff suggests that you get used to it as you get older. I haven't. I actually did it twice when I was in 7th or 8th grade.
You know about one with Greg Latta.
Yes, and that's the other one. So man, that is that's a tough one to handle. You immediately panic, right? And you want to flee. I want to go home. I got to clean up.
I can't have anyone smell me like this, and I can't sit down in the studio because I've got shit in my pants. Even if it was, albeit a small, I guess there's like a dime, but it was there, and I knew it was there. I couldn't sit in the radio studio after that, and I couldn't go to work after that, so I had to go home and wash my ass. There's just no way around it.
That's hilarious. Squeegee says, Dan, you stick a 20 in your shirt pocket, puke on your shirt. Then when the old lady asks about your pants, you say, the same guy that puked on my shirt shit in my pants.
Well, I told her, I was like, fuck it, if I'm going to get married and we do filthy things to each other, I'll tell her about the filthy things I do without her, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a totally open relationship in many ways.
Yeah.
I don't think that Johnny Santucci is going to join us today. Today was his moving day. He sent a couple of emojis. He was like Christ carrying the crucifix and the Romans whipping him and stuff. So he might be in traction for a while. Hopefully he will resurrect next week.
Wow.
So God bless you, Johnny Santucci. We'll see you next week. And so it's just the two of us, and of course we get to look at the beautiful picture of Nikki, Dan Aguirre's fiance. Hey Dan, did you hear anything about Justin Fields today?
Yeah, again, I didn't see the presser, but I read, if the comments are accurate, I read some of the transcripts of it. You never can tell if someone online's fucking with you and saying this or that. But yeah, he seemed, from what I read, was saying, well, this is where I wanted to go. The big ups to the Bears for getting me here. But did I see or hear it? No. So if you have it, I'd love to watch.
Yeah. Jason Leisure of the Chicago Sun-Times made the trip down to Pennsylvania in their training camp. And so you'll see the clip and you'll see Fields' reaction to Jason Leisure right at the top, and he shares his story about what his expectations were, and then the news of the trade.
How do you look back on the time? How you doing?
You're doing good. You say what?
How do you look back on the time in Chicago?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs, but all in all, I appreciate every relationship that I built. All my teammates, they know that. Nothing but love for the city, for the fans, and for my, old teammates and coaches.
Did you feel they did everything they should have done to facilitate your growth?
I'm not really gonna, harp on the past. It is what it is. It's in the past. Now I'm here now. So, like I said, I'm grateful to be here and grateful to be a part of this team.
When you find out that you're traded at 10 o'clock local time, I mean, are you able to sleep that night? Are you on the phone? What kind of happens after you get that news?
I mean, yeah. I've been dealing with, people for, a long time. So in my exit meeting, we were in the same situation last year with having the number one pick, and it was just a little bit different this year. So, I mean, I'm not naive to the fact that, I can read body language and stuff like that. So it wasn't really just a shock to where it's like, I got traded. Like, I knew what was going to happen beforehand. So I'm just glad I got, traded to the spot that I wanted to be at. So
was it a relief? Speaking of that, was it a relief to get the news that it happened?
I think so. I think when you're just, waiting, because I knew I was going to get traded, at the end of the day. That's just what it was. So it was just, just me waiting and, me, trying to figure out where I'm going to be at and stuff like that. It was definitely a relief to, kind of be on a team and know where I'm going to be at. So.
Justin, how about being traded into a really good situation? Because you could have gone a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to, Pose. He would communicate it to him, through my agent, and I told him where I wanted to be, and this was the place I wanted to be. So, he, honored that, and I appreciate him for that, and glad he was able to put me in the spot where I wanted to be at.
What needs to go right for you to become?
Classy guy. It's gotta be. It's got to be tough on the poor guy. He goes in for his exit interview, and he's still a member of the Chicago Bears, and he can read from the body language that the GM and the coach are basically saying, yeah, you're not going to be here. So they must have been like, I don't know. It's like, maybe like this, body language like this.
I think in two instances, it's akin to a relationship. First off, seeing him, that's the first time I've seen him since after the Packer game, I believe. And I was like, God, it's like seeing an ex. Yeah. Like, ooh, like there he is. Like, like it's like a girl you used to fuck, and then suddenly she appears or something, like she always looks better than what you remember, or something like that. I was like, there's Fields. He looks like he's in good shape, man. He looks happy. I hope he does well. And when he was talking about reading the body language, first off, I thought about Bill O'Reilly. Remember, he always had those body language segments. But secondly, I thought, I bet it's like he's getting dumped when he's sitting there and he knows they're bringing in a prettier girl.
That's right, and a cheaper date.
It's and it's amazing that Jason Leisure went all the way to Pennsylvania for that. I mean, like his job is here or in Illinois, and it's not like there was a game. So, like, big ups to him just to go get the story.
Yeah, big ups to the Chicago Sun-Times using our donations, because they're a donation organization now. That second newspaper in Chicago, they accept donations, and that's a big part of how they get their revenue, to send reporters out to Pennsylvania to get a soundbite from Justin Fields. Pretty wild. It's interesting that, and somebody mentioned this just a second ago, and Josh Brown did. Reports that Justin Fields and Nick Foles didn't get along. Now, Allen Robinson said Andy Dalton was the better option at quarterback. There's lots of drama surrounding Fields' time here. So, did we talk about that last week?
That was 2021 when he was a rookie, and look, I know Allen Robinson did some stuff for the bar room, so I don't want to sit here and like shit on him, but. Fuck, man. Okay, it was a chaotic 2021 with the ending of Matt Nagy. Fields is 2022, especially, and then 2023. Whatever went wrong his rookie year, like, I'm going to give him a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it that he should have shown maybe more respect to Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP at one point.
Right.
But, I mean, I guess if you come in as a rookie, you got to have a little bit of swagger, and maybe rub them the wrong way. I don't know. But I think Fields made up for it with some awe-inspiring highlights for us in those 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And Cliff is right. Fields wasn't ready when the Bears' losses forced Nagy to start him. But, Nagy could have gone because it was Foles and there was another backup quarterback. It was Foles and Dalton in Fields.
And he started Fields instead of Foles there in Cleveland at the game we were at, and got called, homophobic slurs.
You'll never forget that.
We're accused of being gay lovers that day.
Well, we were. Heidi says, I don't buy that. Players were bummed when he was traded. He was a good locker room leader. You know what, Heidi? I do believe, I could see it in his rookie year. There was a certain confidence in himself that made him appear a little standoffish. So when Josh Lucas and who was it? And another anonymous source, a former coach of the Bears, said that Foles was trying to connect with Justin in the quarterback room, and he would see Justin kind of slouched down on his phone, not paying much attention. I can sort of believe that because he came in thinking this game is not as fast as people thought. He was a little full of himself. So, and he quickly was humbled and really put his head to the grindstone and really tried to improve. And he's a class act now, but he might have had those blemishes in his character back then. Might have. Who knows, right? We'd have to open up criminal charges against him and find out in a New York City court. By the way, go ahead. I was just going to say, we haven't heard from Trump yet. Let's see.
Quite frankly, we need to start referring to Dan as Dumpy Dan. Hey, Dumpy. And Aldo should now be called Asswipe Al. Go ahead and bare your souls, you two filthy bitches. Wake me up when John gets here.
Well, he's going to be able to sleep soundly because it's going to be Asswipe Aldo and Dumpy Dan the rest of the way.
I was just going to ask Heidi because we know how much she liked Cole Kmet and Cairo Santos physically, but going back a few years, we know from all the stories that, I mean, they called him Big Dick Nick, that Nick Foles had a great cock. So I was just curious if that part of the story excited Heidi as much as it did me.
a large part of the Chicago fan base was very excited with Big Dick Foles in a Chicago uniform. And I don't want to belabor this. I know a lot of people are like over the Justin Fields stuff, but he still is. And I think for the next several years, if his career continues in the NFL and he starts to play better than he did in Chicago, he's still going to be a fascinating topic, just like Mitch Trubisky was for the 2 or 3 years immediately after he left. We had so much hope in him, and some people immediately said, okay, he doesn't have it. We need to get a new quarterback. And those people might have been right. It's proving to be that they were more right than some of us who didn't believe that and wanted to give him another chance, his 4th year with Chicago. So he's still, a part of Chicago in some way. I wish him luck, and I don't want him to play well so I can say, I told you so. I just think that he's a good guy overall, and he deserves, some success. And Jason, Jason Leisure, when he asked Justin, do you think that you were, I'm paraphrasing here, do you think you were set up for success? And he very professionally said, I'm not going to dwell on the past. I'm looking forward. That's the right answer. He didn't do a Nick Foles and say, yeah, Nick Foles wasn't listening to me. God damn it.
Right. Do you think, can you draw a parallel? The only one in my own head, I was thinking, and maybe the Fields should be a bigger star than this other guy, but I was thinking maybe Charles Oakley, maybe a parallel where in Chicago sports somewhere where a guy was sort of traded perhaps prematurely, but was a good player, and you saw that he could be a good player at least somewhere else. Can you think of another guy? Again, maybe Oakley's not a big enough name, but to me, that's the first thing I thought was, again, Oakley for Bill Cartwright. Like, wait, they could do a lot more with Oakley. Can you think of one like that for Fields somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. My memory is failing me a bit. Mike North and I were going back and forth a little bit on the Chris Sale, the left-handed pitcher for the White Sox, who averaged 12, 13 wins in his few seasons with the Chicago White Sox. They traded him. He was a much coveted left-handed pitcher by a lot of teams, and they traded him for a bunch of prospects, none of them who have worked out for the White Sox. And Sale himself has pitched really well, but he's had an injury-riddled career since leaving the White Sox. I'll have to give that.
Maybe Greg Olson or Thomas
Greg
Jones.
Olson is a good one. Yes.
Thomas Jones
is a good one. Jay Gris says Wilbur Marshall, maybe. I don't know if Wilbur Marshall had a season better than the 85 season. He played at a very high level. Maybe seasons equal to 85, but not better than 85. The guy was a monster. Omar Barrios says definitely Thomas Jones. I think that's a good one. That's a great question. Squeegee says, or maybe Haywood Jablomi. Maybe. Let's see.
We got like Nikki. Kevin Spacey there. That Haywood.
You gotta save that thought because you're gonna have to share with our audience about what that documentary is all about. But Heidi says, "No thanks, Dan. I'm no Fool's fan at all. Big dick."
Oh, that's too bad. He was the Super Bowl 52 MVP.
Yeah, that's right, man. His stick probably grew 3 inches after he won that MVP.
Hell, I was so against the Patriots usually that my dick grew 3 inches after seeing them win.
Speaking of big dicks, Tom Brady hosted a bunch of young quarterbacks alongside who was he? Jay-Z, the rap superstar, and the guy who is the CEO of Fanatics. And Brady was basically counseling these guys on what it takes to be the type of quarterback he was, a winner.
When you have 53 guys on the team and you think it's about you, it ain't about you, it's about us. And the biggest problem I see with a lot of the young players today, you guys are making it too much about I and me because of social media, because of branding and all that. It's fine, you're not going to win. There was a difference between being a star and being a champion.
Your talent gets you there. You know, your work ethic and your discipline takes you to where you want to be.
Every day of practice is important. You know why? Because when I was on the Patriots and we had 20 years winning, every day was a big day. I treated a preseason game, I treated a regular season like it was a Super Bowl. So when I got to the Super Bowl, it was just another day for me.
You got to know who you are, because those moments going to come. You're going to be down 28-0. You got to say, all right, I know who I am. I'm going to go get it.
I'm unrelenting. Like, I will not quit in anything I do. And I never got there on, educational background. I never got there on skill. It was work ethic and hustle.
There should be nobody in your life that should have higher expectations for you than you.
You're going to evolve or you're not. You're going to keep evolving or you're not. And if you're not, the world still spins. If you're forever curious, you'll always keep getting better.
Did you notice who was seated immediately to Tom Brady's right?
I did not.
It was Caleb Williams, taking in every word. Yeah, taking in every word. It was funny too, because my wife told me, "Do you know if Caleb Williams was out in Los Angeles?" And I go, "I think he was for some thing with Fanatics." And she goes, "Well, it's funny because my friend was in an elevator, and in walks this big, tall African American guy, and she says, 'I think this is Caleb Williams.'" And she touches him on the back and says, "Are you Caleb?" And he goes, "Yes, I am, ma'am." And she goes, "Oh, we're so excited to have you in Chicago." He goes, "I'm excited to be going to Chicago." And that was the end of the conversation. But seeing that video and seeing that he was absorbing all of that inspiration from Tom Brady and listening to that conversation that he had with my wife's friend in the elevator just gives me more optimism about what this guy could potentially be. If he takes into mind that it's not about me, it's about my team, and to do the things like Tom Brady did. Tom Brady could have probably made another $50 million in the NFL, but he would defer some of his salary so that the team could bolster its roster so that he could have shots at Super Bowl titles. And if Caleb takes that kind of attitude and sacrifice of his own personal game for the team game, then maybe we've got something special here. What do you think?
I agree. And again, I'm no fan of Brady per se. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff you could point out, a lot of cheating and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
He fumbled against New England, or against Oakland rather.
Yes.
But man, when he talks, it's hard not to listen, considering he's got the fucking hardware in his hands showing you like, fuck you, bro. You don't think I did this? Well, here's my 7 Super Bowl rings. Mm-hmm. So when that dude talks about the NFL, like I'm going to shut up and listen. So I'm glad that Caleb's there listening to that as well. I also wanted to, what was I going to point out? Oh, did you hear that story, the crazy story, because you mentioned Fanatics, where Marvin Harrison Jr. is being sued by them?
Yes. Apparently they had a contract. Harrison, who doesn't have an agent, essentially didn't have a contract. So I'm kind of citing, I'm not rushing to judgment, but just based on the preliminary information that I heard, the fact that Harrison doesn't have an agent and Fanatics has probably a team full of lawyers, I think Harrison might lose that lawsuit. He better figure out a way to get that thing settled. Yeah, he would not show up. I just heard that he did not show up for some endorsement deals and reneged on a bunch of things. And so, yeah, it's gotten out of hand a little bit.
I read, I don't know if it's authentic because I haven't, no pun intended, I haven't gone to look for Marvin Harrison Jr. jersey, but I heard that because of this legal, I don't want to call it a battle because whatever it is, this something's wrong. This disagreement, there you go. This disagreement. I heard that the Cardinals jersey of Fitzgerald or Marvin Harrison, rather, not Larry Fitzgerald, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is not on sale. But they haven't been able to sell his jersey because of this. So that's costing him money, like literally. Like, yeah, see, that's what I was saying. You can't even order his jersey.
That is wild. Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about this guy. We had a lot of concerns regarding Caleb Williams, and was he full of himself, and was his dad, taking, too much control over him? Well, it appears that that's really become the case with Marvin Harrison and not so much with Caleb. Marvin is being represented by his dad, and I don't know what his dad has had anything to do with the law other than running from the law. Didn't he have something where he was a suspect in a shooting or something like that?
Yeah, something weird. You kind of makes you glad that we're not dealing with that.
No shit. No shit. I frankly believe that we might have gotten the absolute best wide receiver in this draft. And do you remember Andre Johnson of the Texans?
Yeah, of course.
That's the best comp that I've heard about Rome Odunze based on the clips that I've seen of Odunze at Washington. Big, strong, and fast. Bigger and stronger than Devontae Adams. So the comparisons to Devontae Adams always felt a little off base. I think Andre Johnson is the better comparison. Rome is 6'3". I think Andre Johnson was 6'3" or 6'4". The speed is very similar. With those jump balls, 90% of the time, Rome is going to come down with them just like Andre did. And what excites me even more is that these two guys, Caleb and Rome, are going to be building a foundation for the next 10, 15 years. Long after our two other veteran wide receivers are gone, Rome will still be with the Chicago Bears catching touchdown passes. John says, Odunze is T.O. 2.0. Yeah, I think you said that last week, John. And I think that's a good comparison. Terrell Owens, too. Same kind of, although I think Owens might have been a little stronger, at least Owens would always win the underwear Olympics. Didn't he? He just was so cut, man. Go ahead.
But he was also like, he's one of those guys that maybe I know he got in the Hall of Fame, but still is underrated just because people don't like him. I felt that so many people didn't acknowledge Cutler or anything because they didn't like him over the years. But man, T.O. was fucking great. To break his leg in week 14 or 15 and come back and play in Super Bowl 39. And just because they like Donovan better than him, remember T.O.'s doing sit-ups in the driveway and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and he wasn't Jerry Rice in San Francisco, Rice is beloved. And remember the day the Bears lost to San Francisco and Jerry Rice Day, and T.O. had 20 catches on us in 2000. I just think, in a lot of ways, he's very underrated despite being, he was a great player. He was a great player, but people just didn't really like him.
Yeah, he was a bit disruptive on the sidelines, yelling at his quarterback and yelling at teammates and stuff. But, I think if you talk to a lot of those ex-teammates, they would still vouch for T.O. They just really loved his competitive spirit. And sometimes you got somebody on the team who can behave like an asshole, but it's not so much that they're behaving like a diva. It's their will to win is so much that it sometimes gets the better of them.
Do you think that maybe, and I don't want to bore anybody with the race bait conversation, but again, if T.O.'s a white quarterback, they're like, his competitive fire. But if he's a black wide receiver, they're more apt to saying, oh, he's a me guy. He only cares about himself.
Well, I think that was certainly true years ago. There was always that. I think times are changing a bit, and but it still exists. There's no doubt that there's still some people who look at things through that racist prism, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as it used to be. They wouldn't even give an African-American quarterback a shot to throw the ball on some teams. Vizzo Joe says, Aldo, did you hear Brendan Rice say how angry Jerry Rice's dad was that Brendan went in the 7th round? He said he's going to take over training him. So that's huge. I always thought that Jerry Rice had a role in Brendan Rice's, preparation for college football and for the draft, but I guess not. And I think Brendan Rice could shut up some people. He certainly has skills. I'm shocked that he went in the 7th round. But sometimes it's not about the talent; it's just the way the board falls.
Here goes you a fun fact. Jerry Rice's first NFL start was in 1985, Week 6 against the Chicago Bears.
Holy shit.
That's the game McMahon went out there. Because remember, we didn't score any points in the championship game because Jim was hurt. And first drive, he throws a bomb to Willie Gault. And then later, Walter scores running. First drive with the real quarterback in there. And the Bears are up 7-0. Yeah, that was Jerry Rice's first start.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Do you have in front of you, or do you remember what round Jerry Rice was drafted? Because
Wasn't he first?
I thought it was. I thought it was like he was a mid-round pick, but I think in a previous show someone corrected me and said he was a first or second.
I'm pretty sure he was in the first round.
Because it was amazing. The stories that I remember was that Bill Walsh kind of found this gem in the draft, and a lot of teams bypassed him. And let me look it up real quick. Jerry Rice. Let's do the old Google machine thing. Jerry Rice drafted around. Let's see what pops up here.
Pretty sure it was round 1.
Yeah,
16th overall, first round.
Okay, there you go. So it was 15. Thank you, Cliff. So it was 15 teams that bypassed him, and so he ends up being the best receiver of all time.
13-time Pro Bowler.
Wow, amazing. Well, let's hope Rome Odunze. I'm concerned about, and I'm not complaining, but how often will Rome see the ball in his rookie season with all this talent that they have around him?
It's a good problem to have.
It's a great fucking problem to have. I'm not complaining. Trust me. Trust me. So one of the main themes for tonight's show, Dan, and I wanted to get in with you, and hopefully the chat room will participate, is just the overall thought. And I know there's still a lot of preparation, and we got preseason games, and rosters aren't finalized or anything like that. But just as a talking conversation for tonight, for a few minutes at least, should we expect the Chicago Bears to be a playoff team? And I ran a poll on Twitter today, and I forgot to grab the graphic, doggone it. But it was like 75% of Bears fans said that this season they expect the Bears to be in the playoffs. In 2025, it was pretty much the remaining percentage, but there was 2% that had the third option was they're not going to make the playoffs until they change the head coach. So let me ask you that general question to kick off this conversation. Do you believe that the Chicago Bears will be a playoff team in this season, Caleb Williams' rookie season, or do you think it'll be in 2025? Or do you think that with Matt Eberflus, the head coach, that's the one big detriment to even predicting playoffs?
No, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that Eberflus is going to win the Super Bowl, but I can't tell you that he's not. So I think it's too early for me to tell you that, he passes the eye test better than Matt Nagy. What Tooch famously said, this guy's a bum in 2019, and that proved to be true. But I don't get that Eberflus is that poor of a coach in the realm of Matt Nagy. So I feel, unless there's an injury, a significant injury, like maybe the quarterback or maybe offensive line or something, maybe wide receiver. Unless there's something obvious that's like, they were missing X, that the Bears should make the playoffs this year. I mean, especially with 3 wild card teams. I think that some teams get in at like 9 and 8. I mean, why not the Bears in that regard? I mean, if I'm the Bears, I'm thinking, all right, let's go with Lovey's mantra and let's beat Green Bay. Maybe we win the division, and then you go for a Super Bowl, because if you win the division, you're in the playoffs. But let's beat that bully. Week 11, let's go all in and whatever we got to do, and tell them to go fuck themselves with the win.
Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we're playing our divisional opponents in the second half of the season?
If you get off to a good start, then it could be a good thing because you build momentum. However, in the AFC, your wins like that, if Tennessee, Houston, Indianapolis, those wins are less significant. When you talk about playoff implications, your most important games are your divisional games, and then they're your conference games, and of course your head-to-head matchups. So the ones you can afford to lose the most are the AFC games. But just the way it's stacked, I mean, if you take care of those and then get some momentum and then win those division games, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an advantage or a disadvantage, because if you remember in 2006, the last time we went to the Super Bowl, the Bears opened the year at Green Bay versus Detroit and at Minnesota. So they started the year immediately 3-0 in the division. And that propelled us in a lot of ways to where we went in Miami.
Yeah. It's interesting, like I'm always, I got that competitive fire. And so I want the Packers week 1. I want to right the wrong from the last couple of seasons where we lost opening season games against those Packers. And so part of me, just wants to get revenge so badly against that team. But maybe it is better that we're playing them later in the season, because in order to get to the playoffs, we have to have at least a 5-1 record against divisional opponents. Would you agree with that? Or do you think we could maybe make the playoffs with a 3-2 or 3-3 record?
Yeah. I mean, the easy answer you want to say is, 5-1 is what it's going to take. But man, you just never know. Like, what if McCarthy gets in there and Minnesota's defense could be improved, and then they upset some people, and then Detroit just gave Goff all that money. Maybe they regret that midway through the season and they regress a little bit. And same thing. What I'm saying is maybe each team kind of beats up the other team.
Yes.
Or you remember back in the day when the Bears are really bad, like in the 70s, it seemed like, maybe they couldn't beat Detroit or Minnesota, but they'd have a year where they could beat Green Bay, but then couldn't beat Minnesota. So it's like each team beats the other one. So I could see a lot of them being 3-3.
Yeah. Let's take because a lot, when talking about this topic, I think it's important to look at the divisional teams, their schedules, and who they're throwing out there. So let's start with the Vikings first. They, when they play the Bears on November 24th for the first time, they are going to come off of a game in Tennessee. They're actually, the Bears are the last game in a 3-game road trip. They're going to go to Jacksonville on November 10th. Then a week later, they'll go to Tennessee. And then a week later, they will go to Chicago, Soldier Field, to play the Bears. Now, they're not traveling great distances. The Jacksonville game, of course, is pretty far south for them, but it's not like they're traveling cross country. So, but it is the third game of a 3-game road trip. That, to me, tells me this team, and they probably will have J.J. McCarthy. Either he starts the season, or by that time, I would guess after the bye week, he's in that starter role in place of Sam Darnold. I think this first game against the Vikings sets up really well for the Bears to win at Soldier Field, November 24th, against the Vikings. And then 3 weeks later, we go to Minnesota for the third game of a 3-game homestand for the Vikings. Arizona, Atlanta, and then the Bears. Man, that's going to be a tough one.
It's strange. It's strange that all these 3-game like homestands and road trips for multiple teams. Again, that's usually an aberration.
Mm-hmm. Might be something we'll be seeing a lot of with how the schedule makers are figuring this whole thing out. Man, I'd hate to be the fucking schedule maker for the NFL. There's a guy named Mike North who's the guy that does this, or the lead guy that does this. Not
our Mike North is doing this.
So let's take a look at this team. Again, the big thing is, the quarterback position. I'm not convinced J.J. McCarthy is going to be a great quarterback, and I will be shocked if this guy comes out in his rookie year and plays at a high level. Now, he's got some great pieces around him. Aaron Jones from the Packers is now a Viking running back. T.J. Hawkinson, the former Lion, is there. Big catching tight end. Justin Jefferson, he should have his contract problems all cleared up. He'll team up with Jordan Addison and Brandon Powell, so slot receiver. And the offensive line, not great by any means, but they're not going to lose to the Bears because of their offensive line. I think they're going to lose to the Bears because Caleb Williams is going to outplay this defense. And they've got some good names on defense. The biggest name that I'm most concerned with is to see how Dallas Turner, their designated pass rusher, the rookie, is going to handle the Bears' offensive tackles with his speed. And then I love this Andrew Van Ginkel guy. Defensive backs are just okay, maybe a little better than average.
Is Harrison Smith damn near 40 yet, or is it just me?
He's got to be in his mid to late 30s, that's for sure. I remember getting into an argument. I had Danny Parkins as a guest on the bar room here, and I was telling him Adrian Amos is a better safety than Harrison Smith. And he was telling me, you're crazy. How do you know? You don't even watch. I do, I do the NFC North bar room. I watch all the Vikings games. So we went back and forth. Well, he's proven me wrong. Harrison Smith is still playing, and Adrian Amos is selling shoes somewhere. So.
Good. He's a traitor. Even if he was in the bar room multiple times, he's a traitor.
If we had Adrian Amos here tonight, would you still feel that way about Adrian?
I wouldn't say it not to be a pussy, but if he were here, no. If he were here, I feel like it's my job to not be caustic and to be respectful to the guests.
Sure, absolutely.
But I mean, and it's hard for me to say that you wouldn't take the money, but man, like, to me, if you're a Bear and like you run to Green Bay as soon as you get your shot to go, I mean, like, where's your loyalty? I know that like it's a different game. People like free agency go where the money is, but man, that's the one matchup that if you grow up as a Bear, like your first 3 or 4 years, I mean, it's hard for me to think that you'd want to go there, you know?
Well, let me put it to you this way. And by the way, hi to Brandon Lawson, who's going to be a future guest on our show. Brandon's got a great take on Bears football, and he's got a personal story to share that I'm really looking forward to talking to him about. So, Brandon, thanks for being here live. I know he catches most of the shows on demand because of his work schedule and obligation to public speaking engagements that he has. So thanks for being here, Brandon. Really appreciate that. And thanks to everyone in the chat room. Really appreciate you guys being here. You're a big part of the show. Our interaction with you is a big part of the chemistry of the show. But the thing with Adrian, I forgot what my point was. Something about Adrian Amos. Oh, okay. So if you were offered, let's say, podcasting was a money-making venture. And I said, all right, Dan, I'm going to offer you $500,000 a year for this upcoming 2024 season. You would say, great. But the guys over at TTNL or some other podcast said, hey, we're going to offer you $1.5 million. Wouldn't you say, yeah, fuck you, Aldo. I'm going to take that extra $1 million. Of course you would.
Well, no, again, the difference is, I mean, I would feel like there was something dubious with the offer, like, honestly. And again, I don't mean to say that about either guy, because again, at one point I thought Phil was like a great friend of mine, and Shane, like I said, I'll never forget Shane calling DirecTV for me to get me a discount.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He pretended to be me. And it's like, I'm going to cancel my goddamn account if you don't give me whatever. And they gave me like $75 off a month for a year. And that was because of Shane. So, yeah, I mean, I've said many times, I thought it'd be better if you all stayed together. So, I mean, it's like, in theory,
but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about the situation I presented you.
Well, I'm just saying, in theory, I could fit in, I think. I could fit in there chemistry-wise, but I do have a loyalty issue. I really believe that with this is where I've been, and like that does matter.
Yeah, and maybe I shouldn't have picked on the TTNL guys for that. I should have picked some different podcasts because
that's not a disingenuous answer, though.
Okay,
I really believe that to be true. I mean, like I said, I do this because of what I view as our friendship.
Yeah, well, and that means a lot to me too. And as AC says, loyalty over royalty. I like that. The loyalty over royalty. And then Cliff Victoria says, Dan, give Aldo $250,000 to make him feel better. Yeah, that's
I wish I had $250,000.
Same here. Oh, excuse me. I just feel like Amos did what was right for himself and his family, and he didn't win any Super Bowls, so I'm super happy about that.
Me too.
But getting back to the main topic at hand, I really do believe that the Bears can win these 2 games against the Minnesota Vikings. I think roster-wise, it's set up, and so much depends on the Bears' offensive and defensive lines, plus how quickly Caleb Williams can become the quarterback we envision him to be. And the Vikings have just as many question marks. All right, let's talk about the Lions. And I know there's a couple of Lions in the chat room. Don Burr was here, so I think he might still be around. I was trying to find a visual schedule for them, and all I could find was this piece of crap.
Yeah, it's so dark. It's like I was like, who is that? It's Tampa.
It's really
Arizona.
awful. Yeah, it's really awful. Week 13. Now, they too, like the Vikings, are coming off a road trip, but it's just a one-game road trip. They would have played 3 consecutive games at home, week 9, week 10, week 11. Then they go to Indianapolis. Not very
But
far.
let's point out, though, that's the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Yes, great
Now, I
point.
don't know where we are in relation that week, but at least Detroit is on the road a few days before. Whatever hurts them heading into that Thursday versus usually it feels like they're at home for like a 12-game road or homestand before we go in on Thanksgiving. But I'm being sarcastic. But usually it seems like they're always at home the Sunday before Thanksgiving, though. So I like that they're on the road. So give them some adversity too.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that the Thanksgiving Day game, week 13?
Yeah, but my point is at least Detroit's on the road in week 12.
Oh, I understand.
They're not just sitting at the crib, like just chilling, At least they're on a road trip right there and give them a little bit more adversity heading into that Thursday game against us.
Yeah, I could see that. And then the second game is just 2 weeks later after they play Green Bay and after they play Buffalo. Both of those games are at home. Holy shit.
Well, they can still come outside and play in the snow with us in week 16.
Exactly.
And I know in a few years at some point it seems like the Bears are destined for a dome, but I do like the fact that Minnesota and Detroit do have to come outside and play the Bears, because there is a sense that for years the dome teams never won a Super Bowl, if you recall. It just felt like that the dome teams are always soft.
Yep, very true. Very true. Let's take a quick look at their roster. It's basically a bunch of good players who were screwed.
Boo, David Montgomery. I'm sorry.
You still hate him too?
Yeah, man. What a fucking traitor, David Montgomery. And then bad-mouthing the Bears all the time.
He did, but after the game, he said hi. After both games, he went over and said hi to Justin and the players, and he said in the locker room interview he still has good friends with the Bears. So he took back that. He was just shit-talking, I think, before the season started and said some nasty things about the Bears. But, in reality, this is a goddamn good roster. They got weapons on offense. Montgomery and Gibbs, the best 1-2 running back punch. Sam Laporta, excellent time.
Every time I see Gibbs play, I'm like, somebody hit that little boy.
I know, because
who's he, Spud Webb? Somebody tackle him. He's like 5'2", 125 pounds. Tariq Cohen's like, I'm bigger than that motherfucker.
Oh, Tariq Cohen's career is over, man. Did you hear?
I didn't. I hate that for Tariq. It looked like it was as soon as he got hurt in Atlanta a few years ago. But
yeah, he was with the Panthers and he was released a while ago. So some people are saying, that'll give him time to find a team. I don't think it's going to happen. And he looks buff now, Tariq. He's added a lot of muscle, but I don't think it's helped his speed and quickness at all for them to make that decision so early. But they've got some weapons, and that offensive line is definitely one of the best offensive lines in football. Their Achilles heel is the defense. Now some people are saying, "Oh, we made
and maybe their coach."
And I still think he's a dunderhead. Makes stupid risky
he
decisions.
cost them the Super Bowl appearance. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and he cries after the game, we don't know if we'll ever get back here. Really instilling a lot of confidence in his team.
He should have said, I made some bad calls. I'm in my, I was in my first championship game and we'll be back or something like that. But he went up there and was like, took no ownership of his bad calls at all. If you're in that locker room, you know that he made some terrible calls.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally agree. So the defense, I believe, even with the addition of Terrion Arnold at cornerback, he's a good cornerback, but I'm not too concerned about this defense. I don't think they're going to get much pressure on the Bears quarterback.
That Hutchinson's a good player, though.
Yes, Aiden Hutchinson is a very good player.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll disappear a little bit like, the Khalil Mack, he'll go a few games without making a big play. But for the most part, he's a damn good player. There's no doubt about it. But I think if we're going to lose a game, and I mean just one game, it'll be to the Lions, whether it's the Thanksgiving Day game or I doubt it very much that they're going to beat the Chicago Bears in Chicago week 16. I doubt that very, very much. But I can see the Lions winning one of the two matches against the Bears. So that leaves
we played
us.
them tough last year. We should have swept them.
We should have swept them. We were leading into the fourth quarter in the one game that we lost. So maybe they will.
Yeah, if Tyler Scott makes that catch, then again, maybe Justin's still a Bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. So that leaves us with the Packers. The Packers schedule. We finished the season against them, and then the game prior to that is, where are they here? This is last year.
Yeah, they don't open up with us. I was going to say that's old.
I fucked up. Sorry, guys. I don't have the schedule in front of me. But let's see. I can find it here on the overall schedule. All right. So we finish with them week 18, and week 11 is when we play them at home in the middle of a 3-game homestand. That sets up perfectly for the Bears. They beat the shit out of the Patriots. No, well, hold on a second. They beat the shit out of Washington, Arizona on the road, then come home and win 3 straight, week 10, 11, and 12, with those 3, the Packers being the middle of those 3 games. I really, really believe we could be seeing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game winning streak, maybe even beating Jacksonville week 6 in London. I know that's easier said than done, but we could be seeing a 5 or 6-game winning streak in the middle of the season. Wouldn't that be sweet? Holy fuck.
Yeah, I thought you were at first. I was like, wait a minute, where's he going with this? I was thinking you were like hoping Green Bay was coming in on a 5 or 6 game winning streak. I was like, no, I don't want that. I sent you a message in the middle of the night. I was like, man, the Redskins or whatever the fuck they're called now. That game's right before my birthday. I was like, maybe I'll do that because I was thinking, man, instead of that horrible drive, I saw a flight for me to Dulles. And round trip's only like $219, but man, you'd still have to drive the 40 miles or so to Maryland from the DC airport. So I don't know if I'm going to that game or not, man. That Beltway drive is, I mean, I was really impressed when one of the games we left Chicago when it was like raining and I mean, it's so fucking packed, like door to door, and you're driving like 85, and I'm like, fuck, I'd be driving 60 right now. But that Beltway, I mean, I'm saying you could handle it, but man, I hate driving in DC, so I don't know if I'm going to go to that one or not. I'll tell you the game. If money's not an object, and it is always an object, but if it's not, I could fly from here to O'Hare and then to San Francisco for $450. How about that Bears San Francisco game on December 6th on the road?
December 8th, isn't it? December 8th?
Oh, yeah, December 8th, my bad. But yeah, I knew it's late in the year. Like, if I go to a road game, maybe I'll do that San Francisco game. I really always like the way the Giants stadium looks on TV. Of course, I don't. Did you go to that one or just the Padres one?
I went to the Padres one.
Yeah, that Giants one looks great on TV. I like the way San Francisco looks on TV, so I'd like to check out the 49ers if I did a road game. Of course, I'd prefer to be at Soldier Field, as I told you.
Yeah, my wife has been looking at Arizona, and she wasn't happy with a lot of the hotel options. She says Glendale is like nothing, and there's nothing to do because she wants to just not only see the game, but she wants to see some of the sights and stuff. And she says, well, we'd have to rent a car and then drive to Glendale, blah, blah, blah. So she's still looking for a road game for us to go to. But I'll mention the Washington game and the San Francisco game to her. I'd love San Francisco. Been there 2 or 3 times. I've only been to Washington once.
I've never been in the Pacific time zone. So yeah, it's exciting for me, the idea of that one.
Yeah, definitely want to see a couple of games this season, one at home and one on the road. Doesn't look like we're going to be doing Bear Football, our post-game show this season, and if we do it, it won't be immediately after the game. It'll be like if they're playing a noon game, we might go on Sunday night or something like that, but that's still to be determined.
Well, if you don't mind me asking real quick, go ahead.
Just saying courtesy, hey, how's the Howard Stern show going? That's a compliment. You're calling us the Howard Stern show. That's a compliment. I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Well, if you were going to go to a home game, and I mean, I'm not asking you to commit to this now. It's May 21st, but if you were going to a home game this year, which one are you looking at, just hypothetically, where you was like, I would like to do that one?
Sure. God, we're talking about really any one of these games. Week 1, Rams. Week 4, Week 5, Panthers. Week 1 was the Titans. Brady's no longer with the Pats, so that's not as. I hate going to Green Bay at home.
Yeah, I don't want to lose any more of those.
And I've done so many. The last time I went to a Bears Green Bay game, we won the division title, 2018.
That's the last time the Bears beat them.
Oh my God! Maybe I need to go to that. My wife and I were both at that game. I would probably say,
while you're thinking, let me throw this out at you. I was looking just one night at work, like for me, because again I have to fly out there. So the flight, tickets to the game, and that hotel that you and I stayed at where we could walk to the game. So I was trying to what would be the best one for me in terms of finances. I was looking at that Rams game, that hotel, I forget the name of it, a real nice hotel we could walk to the game at.
Yeah,
for some reason, the week 4 game of the Rams, they've got the rooms that night $650 a piece.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and then in various other games, that same room was $300.
They probably have analytics that say LA people will fly out here and they'll pay that $600. Isn't that wild?
I was like, fuck that. I can't go to that game. And then that hotel was sold out for the Titans game or that weekend. Okay. And I was like, maybe that Thursday night game against Seattle then. But the flight is super high that night for some reason. It's just like there's always something in the way.
Yeah, Christmas week, flights are fucked up. Christmas week's going. Well, maybe the Packer game is the one to go to, or if
they're sold out that fucking day, I'd have to go to another hotel. If I come in, I kind of want to do that one because it's like the one that I've been at. So you want to have some familiarity, is what I'm saying. So and they're sold out. Like the Minnesota one's good that week, at least it was last time I looked. New England was pretty good in terms of availability. And what was the other one? Maybe Detroit in week 16. But that Minnesota one was probably the best one for me financially to stay at the hotel. But the flights weren't that good. So it's just like there's always one thing that just makes it so expensive,
And the times that you've been here, you've never driven, right? You've always taken a plane?
No, Brandy and I drove in 21. We did a tag team drive in
okay.
That Detroit game. We got stuck in Indiana for like fucking 3.5 hours. Again, I was like, let's redo John Carpenter's Escape from New York and make it Escape from Indiana. We kept getting stuck in fucking car wrecks, and it took us like 4 hours to get to Illinois from Indiana. It took me, on paper, it said from my house to yours was like 8 hours and 50 minutes or something. It took me 12 hours because of those car crashes. So I was like, dude, I'm flying every time I come back out there.
Yeah,
it's only an hour and like 20 minutes in the plane, by the way.
Yeah. And then it's 3 hours to get in and out of Soldier Field.
It's so worth it to me though. Like, I mean, after the game, if you've lost, it sucks being stuck in that line, especially if you got to get on one of those buses.
We won't do that ever again.
The buses fucking suck, man.
Yeah, I once did a half-hour special on Cook County Jail, and you brought it up. You were the first one to mention it. It's like being bused to a jail, and I'm like, yeah, it reminds me of that documentary I did. We were standing out in the freezing cold, watching the buses bring in criminals or people who were arrested on Saturday morning after a Friday night. We were out there 5 a.m. in the morning because we were told by the PR person at the jail that's the best time to get the buses coming in. You get a shot of a lot of people coming out of the buses. So we're out there freezing our ass off, and that's exactly how it felt when you and I and Brandy took that bus. And I felt so sorry for her because she had to go back because she didn't have the clear plastic thing for her belongings. Awful.
That happened to Jay Bonds we went to that Packer game opening day last year. Right. I forget what he had. He had something like that, like something Bears oriented, and they told him like you can't bring this in. So he hid it, whatever it was. Maybe it was just like something like I think it was something he was wearing on his arm, like something Bears oriented, and he hid it. And when we got back, someone had stolen it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, because he's like, well, I don't want to throw it away. But yeah, they wouldn't let him bring it in, and then someone had taken whatever it was. I can't remember what it was now. God. But yeah, I rode that bus again last year. Somebody, damn, who did we ride the bus with last year? Because Sylvester and I walked to the Denver game. We walked from the hotel.
Buffon and company?
Yeah, maybe. It seems like I got on that bus with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Bearski Film says, my friend's father is a season ticket holder for 50 plus years. Believe me, he hates the 3 hours it takes to get home. And by the way, if you are not following Bearski on YouTube, you should. He puts together some nice highlight videos. So check out Bearski Film. If you've got the YouTube name channel, put it up in the chat there, and I will put it on the screen.
If you could give me 1 second, please. I've got an alarm going off here. Just sure. 1 second to alleviate that. Stand by, please.
No problem. So while Dan is away, I want to take a look at that roster for the Green Bay Packers. Now, last season, Love threw 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the 2 games versus the Bears. But if you remember, especially that first game, he had a fucking horrible 2.5 quarters. It wasn't, the Bears offense wasn't able to do anything, and they put the defense out there over and over again. And then finally he got hot. And a lot of it also was just no pressure on him. He had plenty of time to throw. That should not happen this season, especially if they're going to start Jordan Morgan, their rookie, at left tackle. But they do have some weapons in Josh Jacobs. I was going to look up what Josh Jacobs' record is against the Chicago Bears, because if I remember correctly, he had one really good game against the Bears, and I think there was another game that he played against the Bears and did not play very well. But overall, he's definitely a challenge. Marshawn Lloyd, the rookie running back, I put him on this depth chart here because I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. He could be like an Amon Green type for the Packers. And Luke Musgrave, I think, very solid tight end. Christian Watson, jury's still out on him. But these 2 other receivers are young. And then they got another receiver named Tredavian Wicks, I believe his name is. He actually came in and interviewed with the Bears a couple of times, and I thought the Bears were going to draft him in last year's draft, the 2023 draft, but he got away and went to Green Bay. So they've got some good, solid receivers. And then on defense, they got a solid defense. Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith on the outside, Kenny Clark and Devontae White on the inside, Quay Walker, the rookie Edgerrin Cooper is expected to start at middle linebacker, Quay Walker, the other linebacker, and then the defensive backfield on paper looks solid. Eric Stokes, Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Jerry Alexander, and Keyshawn Nixon. And the big thing is that these guys have already been talking about how excited that they are. They've got a new defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, who was their defensive coordinator last year, was basically run out of town by the fans and some of the players. But like Alexander is a hell of a player, but so fucking undisciplined. Do you remember the story with him where he ran out and participated in the coin flip and called the coin flip, even though he wasn't the team captain? It was because they were playing in his hometown and he really wanted to do it. He just went out there on his fucking own, and the Packers suspended him for a game. So I think that speaks to the undisciplined nature of that defensive backfield. Dan, you back? No. John says Xavier McKinney is a beast and Jairi Alexander, 2-time All-Pro. Yeah, I agree with you, John. Yeah, John, he named himself team captain. And then, they interview him afterwards and he's thinking, yeah, no big deal. And then the reporters are kind of stressing it. And then you could see this change in his body language. And he probably was thinking to himself, fuck, I might get suspended. I'm in trouble with my coach. So, and I think that also speaks to the coaching staff, the positional coaches. If they don't stress, the importance of doing things this way and not that way. So maybe there's some issues there. The other thing about Green Bay that I want to share with you is Arif Hassan, who covered the Vikings for The Athletic and other outlets and now has his own Substack page. I think it's called Wide Left. He's done some really good work. He wrote an article about Jordan Fields and really dug into the analytics about his season last season, because basically it was a tale of two seasons for Love. The first half was not very good. The second half was much better, and he delved into the analytics to try to discover is the hype regarding Jordan Love, a little bit too much, given that he didn't play a complete season of good football, but it was the second half that has everybody excited in Green Bay. And basically it came down to this. The numbers make it almost impossible to predict what he's going to do in 2024. But there were some signs that he may not play as well if some of these numbers can be taken seriously. There were certain things in his results that Green Bay fans should be taking consideration of and not expect him to get off to a quick start. Plus, the other thing that Arif didn't mention in his article is you can now have a whole season of tape to watch on Jordan Love. And you better believe that Eberflus and Eric Washington and all those defensive coaches have been studying that tape. They've come up with a game plan for Jordan Love that's going to be much better than he faced last season. Dan, I hear you back.
Yeah, let's not forget, Green Bay lost that playoff game in San Francisco due to a pick that he threw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine if that had been Justin Fields or Jay Cutler or any of the Bears quarterbacks. Mitchell Trubisky, he threw the pick to lose the game. He's not clutch, blah, blah, blah. Well, there you go. Maybe their guy's not clutch. And I'm sorry it took so long, that fucking right-wing radio station, I couldn't get it. I don't know. The format's all the shit right now. And the engineer didn't know what was going on either. Either way, that's why I was gone so long.
Whose show is on? Mark Levin?
Brian Kilmeade right now. And which I always say, kill me instead.
Now, you're probably the only liberal at that radio station, right?
No, there's the guy named Matt here who's also a liberal. And he plays that. Remember that talk radio Oliver Stone film?
Yeah.
He plays that kind of antagonistic, like heel wrestling bad guy with local Republicans in the morning. I had no way I want that role. I'm not getting stabbed to death in the fucking parking lot.
Jeez.
Remember, that's what happened to the Eric Bogosian's character on talk radio, which was based on reality. Yes. They found out that he was Jewish, and a bunch of anti-Semites stabbed him to death in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Biden's worried about that too, but he's more concerned about this.
I'd like to know from Dan, when Nikki pissed into your mouth, did you flush?
By the way, I was looking at the comments from last week's show, and it's one guy wrote at 7:38 they started talking politics, and I'm out. I was like, dude, we're making jokes. And if we have, I probably had like a 30-second opinion on what the Republicans are doing to get America to feel like the Russian style of government is okay and not as terrible as people have made it seem. I said my 30-second stuff, and then we went back to football. I don't understand why the tolerance level to talk or look at politics or for someone to listen to an opposing point of view has become so short now. I don't get it, man. I will listen to any conservative, as long as their opinion isn't going to insult my intelligence,
right.
Then I'll probably get pissed off and say, okay, conversation over. But anyway, back to football. I like our chances of beating Green Bay twice this season.
I don't know about that's bold, man. That hasn't happened since 2007.
I know, and I know that I do this almost every fucking year. I walk into the season with such high expectations, 16-1, 17-0, whatever. And I should learn my lesson, but I'm like, you've said this many times. Why not us? Why not us? Why isn't this season? And so I've had a part of that I've always carried before the season starts. And then after game one, I see how bad we are. I'm like, okay, let me change that prediction to 7-9. Or
well, maybe that means we're due. Because think about this. The last time we swept the Packers, I think it was week 5 or week 6, 5 of 2007. We went up there and beat them on a Sunday night. Brian Greasy started. And then to end that season, I believe in the week 17, we beat them at Soldier Field with Kyle Orton and Brett Favre's final regular season start as a Packer. That's the last time the Bears swept Green Bay. Think about how ancient that feels. Favre, Brian Greasy, KO. I mean, that's a long time ago. I mean, maybe we're due.
Yeah.
But, man, I don't know. To sweep them, I think that's a bold take.
Yeah, I do believe that this leadership team with Poles at GM and Ian Cunningham, who, by the way, I just saw that a few weeks ago or a month or two ago, he signed an extension with the Bears. So he's not going anywhere unless he gets a general managership offer after the 2024 season. So that's great news because I think he deserves a lot of credit for reining. Paul said it himself. He reins me in. When I start thinking about, making a wild trade to help fill in the gap, he tells me that's not part of the plan, slow it down and so forth. And I think that's a good partner to have, to be that naysayer when you start to deviate.
So they're like Kennedy and Combs when they were used the political.
Jesus.
The late Combs.
No, yes, I was just going to say the late Hannity. Heidi says that the last time she was up here, it took her $100 to walk to her hotel. Of course, we were hungry as hell. John ate half of the restaurant's menu, as well as his brother Sam before.
Something happened. I don't know if we walked out the wrong side of the stadium, but it took us like 50 minutes to get back to her hotel. And her hotel had a nice restaurant that we all ate at.
Oh, okay.
And what's her name? How do you pronounce it? Naslia?
Nosley.
She showed up. You had the Buffon brothers, and Sam has the most powerful handshake grip you'll ever experience in your entire life.
Oh my God.
And John was there, of course, and myself and Heidi. Yeah, so that was a fun day. And the Bears beat the Raiders that day. But yeah, we had to walk for fucking ever.
Yeah, it's weird. The Buffon family, they are all special human beings. They got hands the size of Samsonite suitcases. They got grips that are, forearms that are huge and stuff. And they're all very athletic. The family is like a coal mining, family. And they were into coal mining. They were into sports. This Buffon family is unbelievable. By the way, Curtis says, Aldo, thanks for the great shows. It's been a pleasure listening to you guys and all your different skills with me on you. I don't know what that last part means with me on you. What are you trying to say, Curtis? When I was sleeping, you were on me or something?
He's thinking about you in that way, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Why won't Mickey think of me that way?
I think it's because last week you said you were uncircumcised, and that's really turning on the fan base.
Turning on or turning
them on? They want.
Jesus, when I get cold, sometimes here in the basement it gets cold, and so I'll just take my foreskin and cover myself up.
It's like a butterfly about to go through the metamorphosis from the
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. By the way, on a personal note, I had my first massage today since I had my surgeries
Hope you didn't do a Deshaun Watson and ask for your asshole.
It always crosses my mind, right? And so it was a new masseuse because I don't know what happened to my regular masseuse. She may have quit or something. I hadn't seen her in like over a year. And so this lady, she was okay with the massage, but man, she would not shut up. She just kept talking through my 90-minute massage. And I'm like, I'm trying to concentrate on your hands, slowly rubbing my soft tissue muscles and hoping that you get them harder. But nonetheless, it was a good massage, and I'll be back to see her. Hopefully I can get her to shut up.
Yeah. I used to have 60-minute ones when I moved into my house 10 years ago. I overdid it. Like, you know, I mean, who's going to carry all the heavy stuff, me or my ex-wife, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they sent me to medical massage therapy, and the lady that did it, she found out that she was friends with the daughter of a woman that I work with. So, she was always giving me anecdotes. And she found out she liked the same show that I liked. And she was so personable and so nice. But like you're like, damn, like, okay, the massage is over. And I felt like all I did was talk. I didn't enjoy the massage at all, you know?
Yeah, see, I'm not that way. I don't want to talk during the massage. And I kind of made a mistake going in. I was talkative, but I was talking about, you know, this is where I had my surgery. This is the blah, blah, blah. And so she goes away. I take off all my clothes. I'm completely naked, get under the blanket. She comes in, and no, I did not get a stiffy because she was talking all the time.
See, I kept my drawers on.
No, I got to take it all off. Got to take it all off. You never know. That finger might slip into that a-hole.
I mean, like you said, I'm not embarrassed or what I got or whatever, but I mean, in the context of it, I would be embarrassed because not even if it's an erection. I don't know. Like I want to seem more professional. Not saying that you're unprofessional, but I feel like the underwear kind of at least made separate me from Deshaun Watson, you know?
At least that, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Deshaun Watson is going to bounce back and play at the same level he did in his best years with the Texans?
No.
You think it's over for him? All the baggage.
That terrible trade the Browns made for him. All the shit the Browns fans talked to us. Like, that's going to be another one of those Browns moves that they're going to be talking about for 10, 15 years. Look at what we did. You should have seen them. They were rallying around, what's the guy's name? Again, the MVP of Super Bowl 47, the Flacco, Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Oh, they were selling Joe fucking Flacco shirts all over Cleveland. That's what it said, Joe fucking Flacco. And that dude beat their ass for like a decade with the Ravens. But that's how quick they latched onto him because they don't like Watson there.
I'll never forget that video I found of Browns fans talking after they won a game, and fans saying, all that money we gave to Deshaun Watson, we should give it to Joe Flacco. It's like, dude, come on. You can't be serious. Flacco, you know, he had a little surge there, but if you don't think that Deshaun Watson is the better investment, now I would never invest that kind of money in Deshaun Watson. Absolutely not. But you can't think that Flacco is going to have another season or two like he did in that second half of the 23 season.
The Colts evidently thought that. So isn't that where he's at?
Yeah, but he's there as the backup to Anthony Richardson, which is weird because
that's on paper, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, you're right. He still has to earn the job, but Flacco must think he's going to be the number one quarterback because he said, I will never sign a contract to be a backup quarterback. I can retire happily, but if I have an opportunity to be the number one quarterback, I will sign a contract. So he must think that he can beat Richardson out this upcoming season. We'll see. I like Richardson. He's got all the tools. Reminds me a lot of Vince Evans back in the 1970s. He played with the Chicago Bears, but was never able to harness that. And just when he seemed to be on the verge of that, he goes to the Raiders. I forgot if it was a trade.
I think he went to the USFL first.
Okay, there you go. That's what
but real quick, if I could circle back to Flacco,
please.
You remember like Case Keenum had that super year at the Vikings and then went and started bouncing around? Or To me, if you're a guy like that, now again, Flacco's already done good things. He's already won a Super Bowl. Was the reason they won a playoff game against the Broncos with John Fox as their coach. But the point I'm trying to make, if you're a guy like, Flacco now, late in his career, and you have this great, cohesion, everything works together, you got to find a way to stay in Cleveland. Like Case Keenum, you got to find a way to stay in Minnesota. Anytime they leave the situation that it just worked for them like a fairy tale, the next town never works. You know what I mean? Like Josh McCown was doing so well with the Bears, backing up Jay. As soon as he's gone, he's out of the league.
I totally agree with you. It's best to stay where you are. That's like the old Howard Stern thing. He would talk to these celebrities who left a hit TV sitcom show and say, "Well, you stupid. You're on a good thing. Oh, I don't want to be typecast as whatever."
Right.
And you're making tons of money. You may never get that opportunity. There's a long list of Hollywood.
David Caruso, remember NYPD Blue?
Oh, yes.
Big star, and then for like 10 years, it didn't have anything. I think he's got a niche on one of those NCIS shows or something now with CBS, but for years, he's kind of out in the wilderness because he wanted to make movies that proved to not be successful.
He actually made a couple of movies that I liked.
Jade
was one.
But it didn't make any money in terms of like success. But a good movie though.
Yeah, and then he made another one,
Kiss of Death.
I love that movie. It's a remake of a 1950s black and white classic, and it's updated, and it's a great crime picture. And Nicolas Cage, Nicolas Cage plays the bad guy. And he's terrorizing in that movie. And what's his name? The guy, the star we were just talking about?
David Caruso.
Caruso plays the guy who is trying to go straight after being in crime, and he gets lured into doing another thing. And then Samuel L. Jackson is in it, and he's got that tearful eye.
Yeah.
So it's crying. I thought that was a good movie. Did you not like it?
That was okay, but again, the point was the juxtaposition of a guy who's on a big show goes to make a couple movies that suddenly bomb, and then he's without a gig for a while until he found his way to that CBS show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we have to, Don Burr is in the chat room. We have to talk a little bit more about the Detroit Lions and just how fucking of a imposter football team. That whole fucking franchise is an imposter. I just want to irritate Don Burr.
I was rooting for them to get.
I know you were. I was surprised. San Francisco.
Well, I feel bad for Minnesota losing all those Super Bowls, and Detroit never gone. I kind of feel like I don't feel anything toward Green Bay. Like you'll never get me to feel bad for Green Bay.
Right.
Anything that happens to them, it couldn't happen to a better franchise. If something negative happened, it couldn't happen to a better team.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. There was a time where my hatred towards the Green Bay Packers had subsided a bit, but since the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love years, it started to really increase to the point where if I were to read a headline, Green Bay Packers team airplane crashes.
Yeah, we are Marshall.
Yeah, if that were to happen, I go, well, does that mean that we get the win?
I hated Don Mikowski too, by the way.
Oh, yes. That fucking asshole.
And Randy Wright. Anybody remember Randy Wright?
Yeah. The worst period was the Forrest Gregg years, right?
Yeah, Randy Wright was the guy that replaced what's his name? Lynn Dickey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn Dickey put up some points when he was there.
Yeah. Lynn Dickey prior to that was with the Houston Oilers, wasn't he?
That I don't remember.
Okay. Look that up, John, in the chat room. John likes to write these long chat comments. Remember the Trubisky, Glennon, Mark Sanchez quarterback room?
Oh, boy.
Now it's Caleb, Tyson, Rippin. What's up with special franchise having these kind of quarterbacks? And we can't bring in a good veteran quarterback. John, I've been a little concerned about that too. Rippin knows the system really well, which is why they want him there. There is no expectation that Rippin is ever going to get a snap, is ever going to be the second quarterback on game day. He's the emergency quarterback because he knows the room. And hey, we've had veteran quarterbacks here often trying to help the young quarterback, trying to help Fields, trying to help Trubisky. How's that gone? So I'm not going to cry too much about it. Yeah, if a really good qualified veteran came in, like maybe a Joe Flacco, and he wanted to be the backup to our number one draft pick, Caleb Williams, I wouldn't cry about that, but I'm not putting that much onus. What I am much more concerned about is the pass rush. Get me another fucking defensive end, even if it's Yannick Ngakoue. If he comes back to team up with Montez, I'll feel a lot better than the defensive ends that we currently have on the team.
I've got a veteran name that will prove your point there. Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
You can sign Chase Daniel and he can wear funny little hats and
his broadcasting career has started, though. I think he's working with the NFL Network now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but that's what he did. He was just dressed in please give me attention outfits. But what did he really do for the Bears? He won a game on Thanksgiving up in Detroit, Don. I don't know if you remember that or not. But I'm just saying, he was a big acquisition. It didn't really help Mitch, though.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. Very true. So I don't, and you know what? Flex says Bajan beat out PJ Walker last year. They paid him decent money to leave. For PJ Walker to leave. I still have faith that Tyson Bagent is going to be a good. I think he's already proven that he's a good backup quarterback.
He's bulked up a lot this offseason. I don't know if you saw him.
Oh yeah, he fucking looks like he should be cast as the next Superman.
He's stout. I don't know if how that impacts his arm strength because that seemed to be the most glaring weakness. But he's definitely put in some time in the weight room.
Yeah, and he's been, at Hallis Hall the entire offseason, so I'm sure, he's learned the playbook inside and out. By the way, did you see that report? Albert Breer wrote an article about Caleb Williams and said that the three, they call them Zoom meetings because it goes over Zoom, video calls that they have with prospects. You can have up to 3 of these video calls with a prospect, and the 3 video calls they had with Caleb Williams, they basically spent the entire 30 minutes in each of them helping Caleb understand the playbook, going through the cadence, going through formations, going through scenarios, what they like, what the playbook calls for base plays on third down inside the red zone. They spent all that time knowing, and this was even when Justin Fields was still on the roster, knowing that they were probably going to draft Caleb Williams unless they found out something terrible about him, and they wanted him to come into OTAs with that basic knowledge of the playbook. To me, that's a master stroke. Not a lot of teams get that opportunity because you don't know if you're going to get that player, but if you got the first overall pick, you can do that. And so the Bears did, and Caleb has come in with a head start of any of the rookie quarterbacks, knowing the playbook better than Daniels does at Washington, Drake May does at wherever the fuck he's playing, New England, and blah, blah, blah. So that's good news. I love that.
Yeah, and he seems to be the guy that really is gung-ho about learning everything, too. I mean, he seems to pride himself on his intellect and things. I'm not saying that other guys are happy being dumb or something, but how many times have we had a guy over the years who are like, he just doesn't know the play? Remember Kevin White? It was he was hurt every year, and it's okay, I bet he's learning on the side, though, that's the upside. They're he still doesn't know the playbook. What has he been doing for the last 3 years? If you were hurt every year, then at the very least put in the classroom work while you're hurt. You should know the playbook inside and out. Kevin White never knew the playbook. How is that fucking possible?
Yeah.
When you're hurt all the time, what else are you doing?
Yep. And just for a little background story on that, back then, Phil Toshin was a part of the bar room, and he became friends. Who was that small wide receiver that he liked a lot?
Oh, yeah, it was number 17, I think. No,
Yeah.
that's Alshon. After Alshon, yeah, but the guy that made the Gentry, Tanner Gentry.
No, it wasn't him. It was some kid out of like Western Michigan. This was the 2016 season. He was drafted, short guy. I think he was a 7th-round draft
Oh,
pick.
yeah, Dan something, wasn't it? Dan?
Yeah, a 2-syllable last name like Stanhouse or something like that. Anyway, Phil really loved the guy. You know, Phil was a short running back, and he loved short players. And I'm not criticizing that, but he grew this allegiance to the guy. Who saw his college tape, really liked him, wanted the Bears to draft him. The Bears did, and Phil somehow got in contact with the player's dad, and we did an interview with the player and the player's dad.
Daniel Braverman.
Daniel Braverman. No, not Blankenship last. I was close. Braverman. That's him. Excellent job. And so Braverman's dad told Phil, yeah, you know, this Kevin White kid, he doesn't even know the playbook, you know, and the Bears are really upset with him.
He should be.
Yeah, they should be. Damn right. You know, the guy was, and that was the big problem with Ryan Post. He used to fall in love with players' physiques. He was an underwear scout. You know, how's he looking in his underwear? Oh, wow, what a great body.
What a great cock. I saw the bulge.
That's right.
Give me Nick Foles.
He's hotter than me, Curtis, says Nikki. Curtis says they better beat the Packers. My kid's a Packer fan, installed with my wife, and it's been hell. Yeah, how old is your son, Curtis? Because there are organizations. Some of
You
them
could give him up for adoption. I'm kidding, Curtis. No disrespect. I'm just joking.
No, but what is it when you are when you try to de-brainwash somebody?
Oh yeah, it's like the opposite of like when Cambodia was overrun, where they had these information programs to like make yeah. So we need to do that, the brainwashing program to get them into the Bears.
Exactly. You know, when somebody gets involved in a cult, you know, you deprogram them from that cult. We should start an organization like that.
That reminds me, because we always like bring up
this girl says, leave the kid at the fire station.
We always bring up James Woods. James Woods was in a movie where you remember the guy on Caddyshack that played Noonan, Michael O'Keefe?
Yes.
He is brainwashed in it by one of the Fonda guys, not Henry, but what's the other guy, the younger one, this Henry Fonda's son.
Peter.
Yeah, so Peter Fonda like brainwashes him, and they bring in James Woods to like break him down and get him away from the cult. I think it's called, I forget what it's called. It's from like 82. So
yeah, I remember that movie. It was an independent film. I wish I could remember the title, but yeah, I remember that movie. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, no, I just like James Woods.
Yeah, I do too. James Woods is a great actor. Don't agree with his politics, but a great actor. I'd love to have him on the show.
He just hates everybody. He hates everybody on the left. Doesn't even want to talk to them. But it's ironic because he did 2 movies with Oliver Stone.
Yeah. Is this true?
James Woods. Yeah, he did. I was going to say Salvador and Nixon, but yeah, James Woods apparently, because he was fucking Heather Graham. I think it was Heather Graham who said that, you know, my God, James Woods, what a fucking hog. No woman's ever been able to say that about me. Like, man, he's a great fuck. And what a dick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're like, it's okay, you know.
I disagree with Mr. Mayhem. He's not an overrated actor. The guy's made some great movies.
I don't know if I had never watched, not to transition to movies right now, but I've never watched The Island of Dr. Moreau until this weekend.
How was it? I saw it, but I was so drunk and high, I don't remember a thing about it other than the movie was dark.
That's what I was going to tell you initially. So it turns out initially, after Brando is the doctor, Val Kilmer was supposed to be the good guy, the guy that gets, like, you know, he's the protagonist. And the guy the role that Val actually ends up playing was supposed to be James Woods. And let's rewind. Initially, before Val, it was Bruce Willis. They had booked Marlon Brando, Bruce Willis, and James Woods. And then Bruce Willis was going through a divorce with Demi, so he had to drop out.
Oh.
And they put Val Kilmer in, and then he just said, I don't want to shoot this many days here in Australia, so give me the other role. Fuck it. So they gave it to him, and then they let James Woods go because they like he wouldn't work as the good guy. They brought in Rob Morrow, who did 3 days and said, I will, like, you have to get me off this fucking movie. This is the craziest, most disorganized fucking shit I've ever been a part of. So that's when they hired that British guy to do it. But anyway, it would have been interesting to see James Woods in that role.
Absolutely. Now, Demand Dice, I know I'm mispronouncing your name.
Yes, good movie. Good movie.
Once Upon a Time in America is one of my favorite movies, and we've talked about it briefly on other shows here. You got to make sure to watch the original cut by director Sergio Leone, which is almost 4 hours long. Because
I think that's the only one out now. I think it's been accepted as the other one is just trash.
Right. It's because the American distributor re-edited the movie. It didn't make any fucking sense. It's like, what happened? What's happening here? There's scenes missing. Yes. And that movie and the ending is one of the best endings of any movie. And the score by Ennio Morricone is one of the best scores I've ever heard in a movie. I love that movie, Once Upon a Time in America. If you have not seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it. Just make sure you got 4 hours because you should watch it.
I got a question for you. I asked this to Nikki a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And it turns out she hadn't seen a lot of Pacino's 70s films other than the Godfather stuff, you know? So I was like, I don't know. We were saying if you could take Al or you could take De Niro, one or the other, combine like what you think about them as a person, like in terms of the charisma and the movies that they have selected, whose career, what man do you want? Al Pacino or Robert De Niro? I say Al Pacino.
What'd she say?
She said De Niro. But I pointed out that there was a lot of good, like that's when we watched Dog Day Afternoon. She had never seen Dog Day Afternoon. I was like, I don't know, you haven't seen Al in his prime, and you know. But again, I respect her decision if she wants to stay with De Niro. I just, you know, De Niro seems to be like such a huge asshole in real life to everybody. He makes a lot of bad movies, although he's got a lot of fucking classics. Don't get me wrong, incredible films. But I'm taking Al. I like Al. Al's my guy.
I have to agree. You know, the thing about De Niro is if you take out all of the films that De Niro did with Martin Scorsese, is his filmography that great? I don't know. The stuff that he's done with Scorsese is just stupendous. And then outside of that, I don't know. I can't think of a great movie that he did without Scorsese.
I can. Yes, the one with Audrey Plaza and Zac Efron, Dirty Grandpa. That was fucking great.
One of the funniest movies of all time, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Aubrey Plaza's in that new
Megapolis.
Yeah, she's the lead, and Adam Driver. I love both of them. So.
Yeah, great talent there. Great cast. So that's it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. If you don't know what we're talking about, Megapolis is the latest and probably last movie by Francis Ford Coppola. He put up half of his fortune to produce the movie, over $100 million in the production. It's supposedly, the reviews on it have been mixed. Some people are saying it's a disorganized mess. Other people are saying it's incisive and it bears repeated viewings for you to truly appreciate the genius behind it. So it's one of those movies you're just going to have to see it yourself and then decide on your own whether it's a good movie, because I think the critics are divided on that.
Hey, what are we missing there about This Boy's Life? That's where De Niro beat DiCaprio as a boy, but what's the context?
Let's see. As I scroll up. She's just pointing out.
Another good film, non-Scorsese. Okay, yeah, I get it.
That is a good point. That is a good non-Scorsese role for. And then there was another one.
What about Heat? He and Pacino and Val Kilmer. That's good. That's a good film.
Yes, maybe I'm wrong on that. But
I want to rewatch that Righteous Kill. I haven't watched it since 2008, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but with Al and De Niro together, I should rewatch.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you that Pacino, if you're gonna fuck somebody and you're a guy, you want to fuck Al Pacino.
Yeah,
I thought my brother was gay for a while because when the movie Serpico came out, my brother's always had this tendency of idolizing people. Like it started with Superman, walking around with a fucking cape from the ages of 6 to 9. Take that fucking cape off. And then it was when he was into his teenage years, it became Al Pacino and Serpico, and my brother likes to get drunk and high and so forth. And he'd be at parties and I don't know if he knew it, but he was talking like Pacino, saying lines from the movie in regular conversation. And because he and I are movie buffs, I recognize that's a fucking Al Pacino line from Bobby Deerfield or something, whatever it was.
You're trying to be Frank Serpico, right?
Right, exactly. And, if I had a picture handy of my brother back then, a lot of people called him Serpico because he looked very much like him. He had the beard like him. He had the flowing locks like he did in Serpico, which is a great fucking movie. You like Serpico?
Of course. I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, just fantastic. Highly recommended.
I think the ending is a little... It ends a little flat, but yeah, it's still a really enjoyable film. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it starts with the end, right? He gets shot in the face.
Right.
And so then you look back at how he became a police officer, all the corruption around him, how he tried to deal with the government, city officials to expose that corruption, how they worked against them. And then it gets back to the beginning of the movie with him being shot in the face. And then you see him go off to Italy and say, fuck you, New York Police Department. I hate you guys. It is depressing. And it's a great, great fucking score by some Italian composer. I really like the movie music in that movie. But yeah, you're right. It is a depressing film because there's just no good guys other than Al Pacino, Serpico's character. Even the people who really legitimately tried to help the Serpico character had great character flaws and made mistakes along the time and made things harder for him. Because to expose the New York Police Department for their corruption, you're basically putting a target on your chest, on your back, on your head.
Or your face in that
your
case.
face. Exactly. Well put. But yeah, Al Pacino is the guy. And you know what's interesting about him? He's like 5'6".
Yeah, do you remember you watched the Godfather series that they did about the making of it? Mm-hmm. And that was the Coppola's insisting on him. They're like, I don't know, this guy's too short.
Yeah.
They were just giving him shit over Michael can't be short. Michael can't be short.
And I agree with that. It just doesn't seem like, some guy that rises to the top of the biggest, mafia family in New York would be a guy that's 5'6". But he's so fucking good as an actor. You look past the fact that he's looking up to Diane Keaton. I love you.
That's the movie I want to watch one day because I didn't know until that series that they had to trade De Niro to the other studio to get Al back to play Michael, because by the time they finally acquiesce and allow him to be cast, he's already signed on to do another movie. So they had De Niro cast in a lesser role in part one, traded him to lead this other movie to get Al back. I want to watch that other movie that De Niro's in. I don't remember the name of it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, maybe someone can help us in the chat with that. Mr. Mayhem says that Insomnia with Al Pacino is a good movie.
Robin Williams was the bad guy in that.
Yes, I saw it probably about 6-7 months ago. It was on. I caught it like about 10 minutes in. Hilary
I saw that
Swank.
in the theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater too. And you know what else I saw recently on the tube that I have not seen before? I've watched Apocalypse Now probably 20 times, but Apocalypse Now Redux, I have never seen it before. I watched it recently and loved the original better than the longer edit. I thought every scene that was included in Redux was not necessary.
This is something you'll like since you like Apocalypse Now so much. Going back to the island of Dr. Moreau, the original director that was fired in favor of John Frankenheimer, they were going to hire Polanski. Again, this guy did all the storyboards. He's the one that this guy worked on it like 5 years just to get it into pre-production. So it was his passion project. He loved that book as a adolescent. So I can't remember the guy's name. So he gets the movie. The only way he gets the original directing job is Brando vouches for him. And what made him like Brando is there was a connection to the island of Dr. Moreau and Apocalypse Now. Apparently, someone made a spin-off movie of the island of Dr. Moreau in the 60s and changed the character around, even though he was plagiarizing. And that ended up being Kurtz, which was later used in Apocalypse Now. And that the fact that it was like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and it came back to Kurtz, he said that Brando, even though it's 15 years or so after Apocalypse Now, still loved that character. So he was like, oh, I love it. Yeah. And like, just because that guy made him like somehow see the connection between this movie and Apocalypse Now, he's like, I'll do your movie and I want you as the director.
How cool is that?
But the reason Brando wasn't there to save him was Brando's daughter committed suicide and he was so distraught. And at the same time, they had a hurricane that hit the set. Bruce Willis had to quit because of a divorce. Val Kilmer got served with divorce papers with Joanna Wally at the same time. All these things just keep happening that curse this movie. But yeah, and Brando's daughter died. And remember his son Christian had killed somebody. So like he was going through like hell at the time. But that's why he didn't save the director. But again, the tie-in was with his character on Apocalypse Now.
Wow. I just recorded Last Tango in Paris. You know, you recommended
the butt scene with the butter.
Yeah, I got to see that. So I recorded it. So I'll be watching that pretty soon. But I have been like revisiting Brando's career. And while, yes, it was a transformative actor, he started to change things from the less, thespian movie acting. Don't go through that door, and brought in the mumbling and the whispering and the moodiness and so forth. And for that, he deserves a lot of credit. But at the same time, the guy was a fucking asshole. He didn't know his lines. He needed people to hold up cue cards. He did movies for the money and didn't really care about the outcome. He played Superman's dad. He didn't give a shit about the movie. He just hated it.
He said this was the stupidest project he'd ever been a part of. He was like, this is fucking dumb. He's like, well, I just took it for the money. Whatever.
Yeah. See, I don't like that. Have you gotten into so much debt that you're just taking a movie role for the money? And if you did, then if you're doing something that you don't like, then, don't fucking publicly criticize it, because that says a lot of bad things about you as a man. And so I've had some problems. And then when I heard about what happened in Last Tango, that he and the director, Bernardo Bertolucci,
molested that actress, essentially.
Yeah, Maria Schneider, they kind of assured her, don't worry, everything will be fine. And then before you know it, he's basically penetrating her while the camera's running.
Well, if you don't mind telling that story, because unfortunately, and I apologize, I have to run and pee. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Tell the crowd about Last Tango in Paris and butter sodomy if they don't know it.
Go ahead, go pee. Take a shit if you have to.
No defecating, and not on myself either.
Please don't. Yes, I have seen The Irishman, Damon, and I know that Dan has too. I will say this about The Irishman. I did not like the special effects that de-aged the cast. Every major character in the cast is de-aged. I agree with David. I loved Pesci and Irishman. I loved all the actors, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. It was great to see those guys again. Yes, I am wearing corrective eyeglasses. I can see good from this far, but from this far away, I got to put my glasses on. So anyway, there comes a time where some of these special effects, you start to think about that. Oh, look, it doesn't look good there. Oh, it looks good there. And it takes your mind away from the storyline. So I've only seen it once. And it's almost like I enjoyed the scenes more in The Irishman when those characters were not in the movie, because you're seeing like Scorsese at his best representing criminals. But when they were in, it got to be a little difficult for me to really focus in on the movie. And so I need to give it another chance, although I liked it. There's no doubt about it. I liked it. Scorsese is the kind of director where Nick says she's getting turned on with my glasses. All right, well, I'll wear them more often, Nikki. So I need to give that movie another shot. I was going to say Scorsese is the kind of director where I could watch his home movies of his kids and just be enthralled with it. I love his take on cinema, his passion for cinema. I know he said some controversial things about the Marvel movies. I don't quite agree with that, but I understand, his point of view. He's an old OG guy who likes movies for what they were, and sometimes, some of the new stuff. Some of the OG folks are reluctant to embrace it. Some of those movies are fantastic. Some of those Marvel movies, I'm not a huge fan of the Marvel movies, but every once in a while I'll catch one and say, well, that was fucking good, man. Very well done. The Deer Hunter came up, and excellent movie. Michael Cimino did that. I think it was his first or second movie. And what a splash this guy made. And then he did a follow-up movie called Heaven's Gate, and it was a big flop, and his career just died. But The Deer Hunter is definitely worth watching. Great characters. Robert De Niro looks fantastic. Well, that's a good Robert De Niro performance there, not with Scorsese, although a lot of people compared Cimino, the director, to Scorsese in that movie. But he wore this outstanding goatee. We're talking about The Deer Hunter.
Great film with Christopher Walken.
Right. The Russian roulette scene is one of the best scenes in cinema history. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, how can you not? It's intense as hell. Does everyone know how it ends, or we're not spoiling?
No, I think we can spoil. If you have not seen how The Deer Hunter plays out, then mute your TV sets or whatever device you're using for the next 60 seconds. Go ahead, Dan.
He blows his fucking brains out, and
That's right.
De Niro is desperately trying to get him back home and has been looking for him. He's been sort of MIA in a military sense, not just in the casual, we just threw that, like, where's Kevin White been? He's been MIA. No, this soldier has been gone, and the North Vietnamese have been exploiting him and his PTSD, basically gambling off of his stress and playing Russian roulette, and eventually he fucking dies, man.
Yeah, and one of the things that was so powerful about the Russian roulette is when, first of all, the guy who was the referee of this Russian roulette, this Vietnamese guy, what a great character. Didn't he have like an eye patch on one eye or over one lens on his glasses, if I remember right?
I don't recall that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't. I haven't watched it in probably 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, same here. But anyways, he slowly put the bullet in the pistol and then snap it. And everybody's like, speaking in Vietnamese. And then the character, whether it was De Niro walking or stuff, well, at the point that the scene that I'm referring to is De Niro puts the gun up. There's this tension. Is he going to get blown away and so forth? Click. And then he starts laughing like, I beat fucking death. That's how I remember it. It was so fucking powerful. And that scene is like a metaphor for the entire Vietnam experience for our veterans who were there. It was a Russian roulette, whether you were coming home or not. Really good stuff.
Yeah. When I was pissing, I thought about something else, not to go back to Brando, but another Vietnam film, obviously Apocalypse Now. Do you think that the reason he likes that character so much is because that guy was a megalomaniac who thought he was almost a deity figure and thought that he was better than everybody? It's almost like that's Brando in real life.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. See, and this was part of the problem, too, that I have with Brando. So he's playing Colonel Kurtz, who was a guy who was in special forces at the age of his mid or late 30s. He's jumping out of planes and stuff. So Coppola expected Brando to show up in shape, but instead he was a blubbering mess of fatness. And so they had to shoot all it seems like in the dark. But The other thing is that they would spend hours and hours in his trailer talking about the character, Brando, talking about stuff with Coppola, while the fucking crew is out there in the jungle waiting for these guys to stop smoking dope and come out and shoot the fucking scenes. And so that's lack of professionalism really bothers me, having been involved in movie making and being responsible for a budget and just like fucking time and money being spent and so forth. That's always bothered me. I understand that some of these great artists should be given some liberty to, construct on the go. It's called disruptive ideas. Well, we're going to do this, but I got a better idea, and it disrupts things. I understand that, and a lot of times it's worth it, but there's still a level of unprofessionalism involved with that. You don't show up in shape. You don't show up fucking knowing your lines, Brando. It's just stupid. Well, but I do agree with your take on that. He did fall in love with that Kurt's character.
But it sort of mirrors his self in life, like with himself.
Yes, that's a great point.
Because of, I don't know if it's just because of Godfather, because he had a successful career early on, but it just feels like because of that, like he should be, given a certain amount of just, oh my God, that's Marlon Brando right there. He deserves that. But I agree. He really does think that, like you said, he doesn't have to show up. He doesn't have to know his lines. Like, he expects your reverence and doesn't even try anymore. But that's what I was going to say too. If you recall, at the very end of Godfather 2, there was a flashback scene that had James Caan in it. And it kind of goes back to the whole point. The flashback was to show you again, because Pacino's such an asshole in Godfather 2. His character, not Al, but Michael is such an asshole. He kills his own brother. Look what he does to his children's mother. And, he's so cold. And they show you all back in part 1, he was the soldier who didn't even want to be a part of this. And originally Brando was supposed to appear in that scene, and he just kept blowing them off and didn't show up on the set. And eventually they're like, we've got to shoot the scene. But they're like, he's so big, not girth, but his character's so big, you can just imply that he's there and you feel it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That Vito's there because they're all pop, whatever. So that's how they did it. But he was supposed to be visually on the screen. You saw what he did at the Oscars too. Like, who the fuck knows how that turned into? I mean, I'm not besmirching Native Americans or the cause that he was making, but it didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, he wins Best Actor, and like he doesn't show up because of Indians. Like,
he was protesting how American Indians were portrayed in movies, and it's like, dude,
it seemed a little pretentious.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here's a guy who in a movie named Sayonara portrayed a Japanese guy. Here's a guy who in another movie portrayed an American Indian, and he didn't do anything to further the exploitation of American Indians in Hollywood. It was like, he was being hypocritical is what he was being. And so again, I got into an argument with somebody on social media. This guy was talking about Brando. He's the best. Nobody should criticize him and so forth. So I offered up a couple of the thoughts about the guy showed up not knowing his lines and so forth. And while he's a transformative actor, there's no doubt about it. And the guy starts like, he now posts something else on a different thread. I can't believe how people are treating Marlon Brando on this app. And he was clearly referring to me, maybe some other people. It's like, oh, fuck you, I haven't followed him. But, sometimes we have so much reverence for certain people within movies or sports and so forth that we choose not to look at their blemishes or their faults in any way. I'm not that way, man. I wanted Justin Fields here for his 4th year, but I saw the fact that he was not spotting wide open receivers, that he was making fundamental mistakes and stuff. So time to move on.
I will say that Brando's death in Godfather, to me, makes that movie better than Godfather 2. It's so like authentic and genuine. He's got the oranges and it was the grandson, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and just that's the way like a guy really would die like that, regardless if he's a gangster or whatever. He's a fucking grandfather playing with his grandkid.
Yep,
and he
he was
suddenly can't breathe and he collapses. That was so real and sad to me, and just so authentic that it's better than Godfather 2 because that death. Not to mention you lose James Caan with getting shot at the toll booth. You're down two really important characters there.
Yeah.
And then you kill Alfredo. So by part 3, you've got to have Robert Duvall. You have to. I don't care how much you have to pay him. And then you lose him because of the money dispute. So Godfather 3 set up to fail.
Yeah.
Just because the lack of characters.
Yeah. That's a great point, and I hope this Francis Ford Coppola movie Megalopolis is really good because I think Coppola's image is always going to be, his reputation is always going to be one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. But I think he needs just one more fucking masterpiece to really seal.
And if you're up in age and you can accomplish that too, it almost makes it even more.
Yes.
Like what you remember Tarantino telling Bill Maher, he was like, I want to get out of it because my favorite directors that I revere started to make bad films.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So he said he didn't want to be the guy that was holding on based upon his early part of his career and then suddenly just making bad films. And maybe that's part of the reason he quit The Critic. I don't know. But yeah, if Coppola could make a masterpiece now, especially knowing that he's worked on this off and on for 30 years or what have you, yeah, that would be great at cementing his legacy for sure.
Indeed. Absolutely. You want to answer this question here? I heard Brando.
Yeah,
really
that is true. That's Last Tango in Paris. Yeah.
We were just talking about that movie, indeed. So I'm going to watch it for the first time over the next few days. I'll pick a night and watch it, and I'll have my pants down by my ankles and lots of butter popcorn.
If you think about it, Godfather, and again, it's ironic that Al gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor in Part 1. He has more screen time than Brando.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, though, but the point, Last Tango in Paris is after Godfather 1. That's 72-ish, 73 maybe.
Yep.
And then Apocalypse Now, 79. Before that, 79. I think, like you said, he did Superman in 77, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, it's like he just didn't do shit the rest of his career. He didn't try at all the rest of his career. Like he didn't other than Last Tango in Paris, name me and Apocalypse Now. He's in a supporting role. That's Martin Sheen's movie, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. He's the one carrying the movie there. So when's the last after Godfather? What did Brando do? And I just told you, Brando carried Godfather 1 for me in so many ways. But what did he do post Godfather?
Did you ever see? And this is not a great film by any means, but did you ever see the movie The Freshman with
Matthew Broderick?
Yes, he actually plays Vito Corleone,
right?
Not Broderick, but Brando plays Vito Corleone. It was an interesting concept, but the film didn't work for me anyway. Did you see it?
I actually saw that as a kid before I'd ever watched The Godfather.
Oh, okay.
Because it came on HBO in like 89 or whatever it was, 90. Right. And I didn't see Godfather until probably around 94 when I was like 14. I think it's the first time I watched it. I didn't have the patience initially for a longer, older movie at the time until I got a little bit, up on my movies,
Yeah. Did Maria Schneider ever sue Brando for sexual assault? No, she did not.
No, I think she was so overcome with embarrassment and just negative feelings that for a long time she just quit her career altogether and just was kept the shit to herself. And then later on she told the story because she didn't want other actresses to go through the same type of shame.
Because she went through emotional turmoil, started drinking, doing drugs, felt like she was 18 at the time, if I recall correctly. And so
18 or 19, yeah.
Felt like nobody was there to help her. It was a movie set where everybody was kind of forcing her to do the scene, which she felt uncomfortable about it. But she said, well, Brando and the director, Bernardo, are insisting, so I can't say no. But she, after a while, you grow a little wiser and you say, these motherfuckers took advantage of me.
Imagine if that was done today, like Brandon would be considered like Harvey Weinstein's like sidekick or something. Like he'd probably go to jail if he penetrates a woman's ass with butter, no less. You think that today that's a criminal offense.
Yeah. We gotta jump on this topic here in our last half hour of the show. Demond the Ice says the first time I saw boobs on the screen was blaxploitation movies. LOL, great times. And Squeegee says I remember seeing The Godfather at the theater when I was a kid. First time I saw boobs on the big screen. Dan, do you recall the first time you went to a movie theater and you saw boobs?
The first time I saw boobs in a movie, period, or just at the theater?
Well, give me both, but start with the theater.
I was watching movies at home I can't answer the theater one. Like again, my sisters were 5 and 6 years older than me. So like if they went somewhere, they had to kind of take me. So they would just throw me in front of the TV and do whatever like 12 and 11-year-old girls did at that time. So like I said, I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 5. So to see Tina was her name, the naked, she gets cut up by Freddy at the top, like they have the actual set goes upside down in reality to show that she's on the ceiling when Freddy's tormenting her and killing her. She was naked, and that's probably like the first hits I saw in a movie, and I was like, man, that's fucking amazing. Like I didn't know anything about fucking or anything yet, and then I started watching those Friday the 13th movies, and I was like, I don't know what they're doing, but I know it's called sex, and I know one day I'm gonna like that.
I love it.
I thank horror films for that. Yeah, for sure. But it was Nightmare on Elm Street was my first one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that era of slasher films, and then before that, the blaxploitation films. That was a fantastic, great time to get your first taste of boobies. I'll never forget seeing Pam Grier's boobies in the movie Coffee. She's in the back seat of a car, and she's pretending to lure this drug dealer into doing something. I forgot exactly what, but her breasts are exposed, and they were beautiful double D's jiggling all around. I was like, oh my gosh, can I just cut that snippet out of the movie out? But before that, I remember as a kid going to the movie theater and watching the Paul Newman movie called Cool Hand Luke. And there's a scene where this beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed girl is washing a car and purposely trying to tease the prisoners who were working on a road. And she's, her tits are up against the windshield, up against the glass, and she's, moving them around with the soap. And I was like, I think I'm getting my first fucking hard on here in the movie theater. I'm trying to find a picture of it because it was so beautiful.
I'm trying to think of something specifically that I was, and it's so, not what we're discussing, but it is in terms of the nudity. And it actually where she's doing this at 61, full frontal nudity, Demi Moore.
Oh yeah.
I saw About Last Night in like 86 or 7. Again, way too soon for me. And they have the scene where Rob Lowe's fucking her like in a montage, where they're moving in together and blah, blah, and it's playing that Bob Seger song, and it shows her completely naked, switching positions from going to the bottom on top. You see her ass and tits. By the time, again, I saw that as a kid, but by the time I discovered masturbating, I was like, I've got to go back and do that shit to Demi Moore. So yeah, I beat off to that so much the VHS tape had lines in it.
Yes.
And Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone's pussy, where she uncrossed her legs, is like a 13-year-old. Oh my God, rewind, pause, freeze, don't know. Okay, I've come. Okay.
What was that website that they would
Mr. Skin?
Yeah, Mr. Skin. They would archive all of the sexual scenes from Hollywood movies, and they say that scene of Sharon Stone showing her bush when she's uncrossing her legs is the most freeze frame.
That was because of me alone.
you took it over the top.
Summer '94, man.
Here's that the woman in Cool Hand Luke as she's washing. This was actually a GIF, I'm surprised it's not moving. But she's just rubbing her tits up against the car as she's washing it. So you can imagine it was pretty unbelievable for a 9-year-old boy in a movie theater.
Yeah.
All right, let's go different topic now. I've seen a couple of things that I want to share with you. What have you seen lately that you'd like to share with me and our followers?
Oh, I was telling you earlier about Kevin Spacey's documentary on HBO.
Yeah, tell us.
It's remember, if anyone listens to us regularly or watches us regularly, you'll know that we talked about the Bill Cosby one on Showtime. I think it was called We Have to Talk About Cosby or something like that.
Yes.
And I grew up watching the Cosby Show and A Different World. And so I really liked Bill Cosby. I liked his HBO special. I think it was an HBO special, Bill Cosby himself, or it was a movie, but it came on HBO a lot. As a kid, I thought that was so fucking hilarious, man. So I had an enormous amount of reverence toward Bill Cosby. So when we watched that, it's like, oh man, this is really hurting my fucking childhood. He's been talking about Spanish Fly and doing this with women his whole career. Well, Kevin Spacey, again, I can't say he's my favorite actor, but
he's a great actor.
Yeah. He was great in Seven. He was great in American Beauty. And, I wanted to believe there was a certain side of them. Maybe this guy's just had a raw deal. Maybe he's a dick to people, but man, they've got 10 people on here that he's worked with, or even one guy he went to high school with that he fucked around and was trying to get him to suck his dick and force. Like he's been doing, they even have Spacey's brother on there, but he's allegedly been doing this to guys, actors for 40 years. And his MO is he wants to corrupt a straight guy, especially if they have military experience, because there's multiple guys like that. And they all say that he's like, oh, that's my favorite, or that's what I really want, is to force a big masculine guy to suck his dick. And he wants a big, powerful, tough guy. And that one guy they just showed there with the curly hair has a real good point. He goes, because he happened to be gay, that his friends told him, it's incredible that Kevin Spacey's trying to fuck you, right? He's like, if I were a woman, would anybody tell me when I'm basically molested that I should be happy about it?
Yeah.
He's like, just because I'm gay doesn't mean like I want to be fucking forced. Yeah, I don't know if you want to watch the trailer or not, but it's pretty powerful, man. And again, it's like the Cosby thing, because Spacey is such a good actor that I want him to be a better person. And it kind of lets you down, I mean,
I feel the same way. I'm looking forward to seeing this, but I know I'm going to be so disappointed in him, because he really has always been one of my favorite actors. L.A. Confidential is one of my favorite movies. He plays a detective on there who works with Hollywood. Is kind of a consultant on a Dragnet type TV show, and he gets involved in solving this murder that leads back to the police precinct where he works. He was just fabulous in that. His spoiler alert, his death scene. Tomasi, what was it? What was the character? The guy's name, Tino Tomasi or something like that.
I haven't watched that in a long time.
Oh, I love that movie. Watch it again, Dan. Watch it with Nikki.
I have it.
It's that movie is. I like these neo-noir detective gumshoe movies from the 50s and 60s and stuff. And then when they did this version in the 2010s with Danny DeVito and the guy from Gladiator, Russell Crowe, and Kevin Spacey, I thought it was just a sensational movie. And so to hear that one of the actors that I really, really appreciate so much for his acting, that Netflix series that he did where he's a politician. House of Cards with Robin Wright. That's an excellent, excellent film. So to hear that he has this sinister, dark side.
There's like multiple people from that show that are on this documentary where that's where a lot of his alleged abuse took place. He would always like bring the guys in by like making them think that he's going to help their career. Kind of the same thing that they said about Cosby with the girls.
Yeah. Well, and in House of Cards, there's a scene where he has sex with his bodyguard, right? You remember that? The guy who was assigned to protect him.
I didn't watch that show actually.
House of Cards. Oh,
No, I never watched it.
I highly recommend it. And there is it's about power in government, and this guy is like a House Speaker, and he is just so good at working the system. But he's got this dark side. Well, he would do anything to advance in power, including murder. And you have to think with some of the things that have happened in the news, not to get political, but that's not too far of a stretch from shit that can actually happen, having people assassinated and killed to advance political careers. But it's definitely worth watching. I will watch this Kevin Spacey thing. It sounds really, really good.
I got a couple more real quick, and I'll run through fastly so you can have your time. One movie that I really liked that had poor reviews, I'd never heard of it. Like, it's 31 years old or something now, but it was really hot and really like Madonna, I thought was really good in it, and she's really naked in it, and I enjoyed it. She's getting fucked by Willem Dafoe, as we know, who allegedly has just a massive cock in real life. So, but it's called Body of Evidence. And man, I enjoyed that film. It was really good. Again, very, very sexual, but the story was good too. I thought Madonna was excellent in it. For not just because she was naked. The movie had twists I didn't see coming, and Willem Dafoe was good in it. Good film. Last two real quick. I watched Woody Harrelson's third film ever, where he's the lead guy, and it's a kind of a love story, but kind of a comedy called Cool Blue.
Okay, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Good film. And lastly, a movie that I'd never watched ever. I'd heard of it, but just never saw it, and I thought Robin Williams was absolutely great in it. And Jeff Bridges, called The Fisher King.
Yeah, I just recorded that, so I have it. I'm going to watch it. I saw it in the theater once, but I frankly don't remember much about it. I remember kind of not liking it, but I want to give it another shot.
It's a little implausible, but it just, especially if you know like Robin's demise now and all that while you're watching. I mean, I just thought it was a really good film. And Jeff Bridges is someone that I find myself going back and liking now, because I feel most of the time I didn't like his movies, but that's a coincidence. That doesn't mean he's not good, but I'm finding that he was a really tremendous actor. And because I really hated that Coen Brothers movie with him that everybody loves, and it just made me not like him.
Yeah, I know the movie you're talking about.
Great Lebowski, Big Lebowski. Big Lebowski. Yeah. I just fucking hate that movie. So I kind of didn't, and I didn't really like Starman when I was a kid. So I was just, fuck Jeff Bridges. So I go back and watch it. I mean, Jeff Bridges is a really good act. Last Picture Show. I even like that film with him and Arnold Schwarzenegger called Pump It. What was it called? Where he's like, it's Arnold's first movie. Sally Field's in it. She's really hot in it.
Oh shit. That doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, it was like Arnold really got good reviews for it too as a supporting actor. Kind of launched him in like 75, 6, somewhere through there. But yeah,
I just opened up his IMDb page. Let me see if I can find it. Hearts of the West, Rancho Deluxe, Thunderbolt, and Lightfoot.
No.
Last American Hero.
No. If you say it, I'll know it.
The Most Deadly Game, In Search of America, Inside Halls of Anger, Bad Company, The Iceman Cometh, Rancho Deluxe, Stay Hungry.
Stay Hungry.
Oh,
that's
wow.
it. That's it.
Never even heard of that movie.
Oh man, Jeff Bridges is the star. Arnold's the co-star, supporting actor, and Arnold got good reviews. And again, this is where he's still really strong in his accent and things. But it was a good film. I really like that movie that has the Phil Collins song called "Against All Odds" with Jeff Bridges.
Love it. Yes,
yes. Good, he's a good actor. Like
he really is.
So I didn't give him enough credit because I hated that Coen Brothers movie. But yeah, he's a really good actor, man. And so if you like Jeff Bridges and you like Robin Williams, I think you'll like The Fisher King.
He did a movie for Francis Coppola called Tucker, the Man in His Dream, about the guy who made the car, the Tucker car. And let's see, he did something else that I really, really liked a lot. I'm scrolling up here. What is it?
He was in a movie where he kills Sandra Bullock that I liked with Kiefer Sutherland called The Vanishing.
Oh yeah, I just scrolled past that. I've never seen that.
Yeah, that was really good. I saw it in like 92 or 3. I've always liked that film.
Yeah, 93. 93, you nailed it. All right, I wanted to share with you a 6-part series that I saw called Bodyguard. Same title as the Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston movie, which, take it or leave it, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Right. But this is a British series about a guy who becomes the bodyguard to a prominent woman in the British government. She's kind of like the second in command. And so he is very, very good at his job, just really detail oriented and so forth. But we learn that he was in the Afghanistan, the invasion of Afghanistan, and he has a friend who hated this politician and all the politicians that got them into Afghanistan. They thought that it was a wrong war and they suffered mightily, PTSD and so forth. And his friend is saying, you shouldn't be protecting her. You should be trying to kill her. So that's the premise there.
What's this on? I like it already.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And it's really fucking good, Dan. You're going to like it. Again, it's called Bodyguard. It's from 2018 or 19, so it's been out there for a while and flew under the radar. For those of you, I know Dan is not a fan of Game of Thrones, but for those of you who are, the lead actor played Robb Stark in Game of Thrones. If I say the Red Wedding, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And his performance is fantastic. And I'm not giving away too much here, but the sex scenes, and I won't say who's having sex with who because that would give away too much, are pretty fucking good. I was like, yeah,
I'm planning on canceling Netflix before June, but I'll try to squeeze this out.
Well, you have to keep Netflix now because of NFL football on Christmas Day.
Oh, it's like Wednesday though. I'll be at work. And it's not the Bears. It's not the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, another one on Netflix I recommend is that Ashley Madison one.
I was going to watch that. So that's a documentary on the website that would hook up married couples. Huh?
Yeah, it's 3 parts. And like at one point they did what exactly I knew all these sites do. They had people at the company portraying the women like fake women and bots and shit. I knew that all these sites when they were like, there's 51 to 49 men versus women. Bullshit. Bullshit. I'm sure there are some women out there comfortable with their sexuality on these sites and wanting to get fucked. And yeah, that's cool. I get it. But come on, man. These are mostly men out there trying to, on these sites. I mean, whether it's a legit dating site or a site trying to fuck, that the beautiful women don't have to be on the site. So why are they there?
That is fucking wild. I always wondered how the fuck, they get so many women because that was the big selling point.
They were faking that shit.
Holy fuck. And then they revealed there was a leak into a lot of the names of people.
Yeah.
It's like I'm busted by their families. Wait a minute, I saw your name on Ashley Madison. What are you doing on Thursday nights?
It chronicles this one dude who got famous as some kind of Christian blogger or something with his wife. Mm-hmm. And the poor wife, really wants to believe him. They've got kids, and he convinces her after the leak that, look, I signed up for it. I thought about other women, but I couldn't do it. And she's defending him, and thinks that, okay, he created an account that sucks, but he still didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And at one point, his religious advisor, tells him he has to tell her. You can't, God won't allow you to hold on to this, and convince. And she says, man, he told me he wouldn't, he's confessing for 2 hours. I couldn't even get a word in. So it took 5-6 years for her to take him back, but she did.
Wow. See, if I were to go to Donna and say, listen, I fucked this chick and so forth, that's it. It won't take her 5 years to take me back. She will never take me back. It's over for me.
And one dude got busted and like he didn't say shit. He just went and like killed himself in the car. You know, like you run the engine in a garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how he killed himself. So like the leak like had consequences, not just frivolously. Like the motherfuckers are taking their lives. So it was if it's decent. You know, it's worth a watch.
By the way, the question from Mr. Mayhem: who's better, Bo Bridges or his brother Jeff Bridges? Got to give the nod to Jeff, right?
Yeah, Jeff's got better hair for one.
Oh, much better hair, and he had a six-pack for most of his movies. Bo was a great character actor, but he really was not a lead actor like
one movie I really liked him in, and it was an HBO film, is where he was playing James Brady, the guy that protected Reagan when he got shot.
Yes.
I can't remember what the name of the movie was called, but again, he becomes a vegetable at one point. He's in a wheelchair, and the Brady Bill comes out of that. But yeah, Bo Bridges played James Brady, and somewhere in the late 80s.
It was done in like a documentary fashion, if I remember that movie correctly.
I think so. It was, like I said, it was an HBO original movie back when HBO was HBO, before it had 12 different parent companies buy it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I want to get this in quickly before you leave.
Sure.
Vince says, I miss good Western movies. Tombstone and Unforgiven were the last good ones. What about, are you looking forward to the Kevin Costner Western movie that was released at Cannes Film Festival? No,
he just did that Yellowstone, and the women I work with made me watch that and the prequels. I just don't fucking like that shit. I like Kevin Costner. I really do. I don't know why it's like the guy that was in Schindler's List that's in like Taken 25 now, like Liam Neeson. It's like he found a niche and he can't get out of it now.
Yeah.
Like at least Liam Neeson's trying to do the Naked Gun reboot next year. Like what the fuck? Kevin Costner's now just like this big Western guy. Like, man, when did that happen? Like that's all he does now. He was even appearing on Fox News's like channel called Fox America or something, talking about Yellowstone. Like not the show, but the real park.
Yeah, well, I think the TV show Yellowstone really appealed to a lot of conservatives. I know Greg Gabriel was the first one to mention it to me, says it's fantastic and so forth. And once I did the research, a lot of conservatives are really behind the show because it's got those old-fashioned values. I actually watched the first
You sound like
episode.
Harrison Buckner. I'm sorry.
That's right. I actually watched the first episode of Yellowstone. I thought it was really well filmed. There's a great scene where these horses are fighting with one another. I don't remember exactly, but it's shot in slow motion. I said, wow, beautiful cinematography, but I lost track of it.
It's Days of Our Lives, man. It's like who's Jamie fucking, who's trying to take over the company, who's got amnesia. It is a soap opera dressed as a Western, and I do not like it.
And the early reviews on Horizon and American Saga, this new Western by Kevin Costner, one critic said it is numbingly long and an incoherent disaster. I cannot believe he's already signed on to do a sequel. In fact, there's talk about a chapter 3 and 4. The chapter 2 will be out later next year. So yeah, this could be a big flop.
I never watched Dances with Wolves, by the way. Never.
I saw it. It wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty good when it was first released. So I haven't seen it in 30, 40 years. And Costner, when he first came out, I think his first role was his first movie. Do you remember Costner's first movie?
He was going to be the dead guy in where they get together and play those records.
Grand Canyon. Is it?
No. Jeff Goldblum was in it. The Big Chill. The Big Chill.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was the dead guy in it, but they cut him out.
They cut him completely out. All you see is when they're like fixing his tie and his suit, to put him in the box, but you never see his face. But the filmmaker, I remember the filmmaker saying, Lawrence Kasdan said, we when we're in the edit room, we realized that it was better to just create this presence of that character without ever seeing it. That was much more powerful. So, but he did Silverado. That was his first film. Thank you, Vince. I thought that was a really good Western, and he's in it along with some other major stars. It was pretty good. You ever seen that one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, take a look at it. Give it the 10-minute test. My wife and I do the 10-minute test. After 10 minutes, if it's hooked us in, we'll watch the rest of it. But that's going to be our show. I know you've got to go. Last week we kept you like 10 or 15 minutes, and the police they were calling 911 on you, right?
I did get written up at work. That's like for being not being early enough.
Yeah. Well, get out there and be early. Before you go, I want you to see the credit sequence. Anything you want to say before we leave?
What's the name of that show again? The one you recommend on Netflix?
Bodyguard.
Okay, I'll think of that because I'll think of Whitney Houston. Okay.
Yeah. Take a look at our credits. And to everyone, we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Greg Gabriel and myself will talk about what's ahead for the Chicago Bears. And so no fart jokes with Greg, all serious business. Let's see. Where's my fucking clothes?
Fun show, real quick. Fun show. No, I love Tooch. I'm not saying, I like it better without Tooch, but this reminded me of like one of the shows like we did in like either your basement or the hotel where we just kind of went. Yeah, I like those. I like where we just talk. It's like we're on the phone or something and people are just watching.
Just the two of us doing however that song goes. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us live and being a part of the show. And for those of you watching on demand, join us live next time and share your comments with us. Take care, everybody.
That's the show. Don't forget to make the bar room great again by hitting the like button. Tooch, I'll see you at the Iowa polls. And quite frankly, I'd love to see you at the Illinois polls too. As for Dumpy Dan and Asswipe Aldo, you two can go fuck yourself.